from Cedric. He got a new podcast system, and he was testing it on me today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Well, I almost missed you because I think I looked at 7 o'clock and didn't see anything, so I was just lounging around, and then just at the last minute I looked at something at 10 to 8, and I went, oh! It was more than but I'll refrain.
I'm actually just putting the email to you together right now. Mm-hmm. I can't do that and actually talk to Cedric or anyone for that matter. I can't do two things at once. I honestly can't.
No.
It's sort of, all or nothing.
Yeah.
This will be easy.
I've been studying people, the things they've learned about people who are labeled dyslexic, and a dyslexic walks into a bra. That's right.
Sorry, that was on a list of puns that I just read recently. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I drink some raw. Let's see, what other word can we took around? Raw burr. Well, my brother had that kind, but I could read. I didn't have trouble reading, but the thing I got out of it was you do it too. You can see things from all kinds of different angles. It's seeing multidimensionally. It's like seeing, like Donald used to talk about when he was in his sculpture phase, that somebody asked him how he saw how to take it, and he said, well, I put what I want in the wax and then I just carve around it, and that's what Michelangelo said too. And I don't do that, but I think it's one of the reasons why I can track with you is because our brains work similarly.
I think when you're open to all those angles, and I'm using angles, but they're actually factors or perspectives. When I am pointing at something, I'm pointing at it from my perspective. But wherever you are, and I'm not talking coordinates on planet Earth anywhere, I'm saying that wherever your mind is at, you're capable of, from where you are, seeing that same thing. The hard part is that because of your perspective and what you're looking at from your position, you may be looking at it from a different side, and I have to somehow get you to see what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
that's probably that's my skill set. Maybe that's what I do best, because I'm trying to get people to see what I'm looking at. So you and I are sitting at my dining room table right now. Now, you don't know what it looks like. Right now it's a mess, by the way, with all kinds of paper and stuff. But we're sitting and I put an apple, and you're sitting directly across from me. I put an apple right in the middle of the table. Now, the thing is we both know, because truth is truth, we both know that it's an apple. We both know it's an apple. Based upon our how we grew up. Now, again, if we grew up in another part of the world, we might use a different word. We have a different language, so we're going to call it something different. Right. But nevertheless, it's still an apple, regardless of what words we use. It's still an apple.
Yep.
Or what we're implying is an apple. People don't understand that that's the truth. That's the truth. You're looking at the other side of the apple. You could say, well, all apples have worms. No. On my side, I'd say all apples don't have worms. But the funny thing is, that's perspective. But it's still an apple, and the apple does have a worm.
Right.
You can see it, I cannot see it. It doesn't mean the worm doesn't exist.
Right.
It just means that I can't see it from my position, my perspective. So the truth of that matter is the apple, number one, and the apple in its entirety is the truth. And even though I can't see the worm, and you can see the worm the worm does exist, and it exists in the apple that exists.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
So, and all of it exists. Everything about the apple exists as the apple.
Right.
I don't get to pick and choose that all apples don't have worms, or you can't say all apples do have worms.
Right.
It might almost seem like optimist, pessimist. You know.
Yeah.
All apples have worms, Kurt. This American pie has worms. I'll tell you that because Mom's apple pie here is nothing but worms.
Yeah. 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 Well, but I think the reason that I agree with all of that, but I can catch your perspective. I may not see it until you use words, but because I'm open, I can catch it fairly quickly.
That's where birds of a feather come together, flock together.
Yeah.
Birds of a feather are the beings that are vibrating at a similar place, and through chematics or whatever, they're drawn to that tone. Mm-hmm. Whatever that, an idea is a tone as well. So when I start talking and it resonates with you, you're drawn towards the core resonance, which is me speaking or the idea itself. And if you resonate with it, with me, you're going to be able to see it. And you're exactly right. You're open. People say, well, I'm open to it. Well, it's because we vibrate at a very similar, from a similar position. And I think today, if you don't mind, we'll touch upon a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
but this conversation, it's getting out there, and I think that I should expose it for what it is. And I'm talking about Roe v. Wade.
Cool.
I think that people need to understand what Roe v. Wade did, but realistically, what abortion is. Yeah. If we can explain abortion for what it really is, not what people think it is, what abortion really is.
Yeah.
And what they're really using abortion for.
Yes.
And why they needed to actually legalize it or not legalize it. First of all, let me state my position. I know two things. I know two things for sure. Life begins for us at fertilization. That's an absolute. My 46 chromosomes began at fertilization. That's an absolute. So life begins at fertilization. If you terminate that life at any point after fertilization, if you terminate it, you're ending that life.
Yes.
I don't care what your beliefs are. I'm being very specific in what I'm saying. Life begins at fertilization, and if you terminate that life at any point after, if you terminate it, if somebody physically stops the progression of that development, arrested development, whatever you want to call it, if you stop the progress of that fertilized ovum, i.e. zygote, from its evolutionary processes, that's an abortion.
Yes, it is.
Nature aborts things all the time. Nature will, if things don't happen in mother, that are supposed to happen, then there will not be a successful delivery of a baby. It just won't happen. At any stage, if something goes wrong, realistically, nature has the ability to say, we're not going to bring this into the world.
Yep.
That's one thing. So life begins at fertilization, absolutely, positively. The other thing is I don't have a right to speak for any woman.
Absolutely.
Even Unum Sanctum says the spiritual man is to be judged by no man. But that means that everybody. That means that nobody is capable of judging another. If a woman decides to do something about her situation, and I'm going to use the word pregnant as we all believe it to mean.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman is pregnant and she decides to do something other than, that's her decision.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that life didn't begin at fertilization.
Nope.
It just means that who am I to decide what she should do with her life
mm-hmm.
and with her situation?
Right.
Who am I to tell her what to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I'm not going to use the word moral. I'm not going to use any kind of religious nonsense, any political nonsense. I'm just calling it like nature would call it.
Mm-hmm.
Nature says that woman has the right to do whatever she's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended, because there would be no period, obviously, if there was a delivery of a baby. I figured I'd bring some levity in here because
mm-hmm.
this kind of stuff gets pretty heavy for people.
Yeah. Well, I guess from my own personal experience, and is that none of that should be. None of that is anybody else's business, and there shouldn't be laws made around it.
And thank you for saying the word I was about to use. So yeah, we are definitely vibrating at the same level.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody else's business.
Mm-hmm.
What she does, whether I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm in a relationship with a woman and she ends up pregnant,
mm-hmm.
by the definition most people understand it to mean,
mm-hmm.
Do I have a say
mm-hmm.
in what happens? I think that's a conversation for her and I.
Mm-hmm. But
ultimately, it's she's the vessel, she's the carrier,
mm-hmm.
And she's the one that has to go through all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as much as I'm going to argue that my 23 chromosomes participated in the creative act, or were the building materials of that creative act, the reality is she's got her 46 chromosomes as the carrier, her mm-hmm. entire body, and she also had 23 chromosomes
mm-hmm.
In that part, the building blocks or in the building materials. So realistically, if you wanna vote,
yeah, I never thought of it that way.
She has 46 votes plus 23 votes against my 23,
mm-hmm.
I should say.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately, she's the one that has to do everything and go through everything. Even though we need to have that conversation, ultimately,
mm-hmm.
It's still her decision, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
I also don't get to judge.
Right. The point being is the conversation is between you and that woman. It is not. And
it's nobody else's business.
That's my point. It's nobody else's business but those two people.
So that would beg the question. Why is there such a thing as an abortion issue?
Mm-hmm.
Now, issue, the definition of issue alone. Let's do this. Let's go to the word issue.
Okay.
Oh, the abortion issue. We're not going to argue about the abortion issue. Issue. What the hell is an issue?
Right.
Well, we know what it is, but
mm-hmm.
let's just go there. I'm going to go to Webster's real quick.
Okay.
This will be kind of loosey-goosey. I did send you an email with a lot of stuff. We will cover all of that.
I was
but
just looking at
yeah.
it. My goodness. Like, we could be on there for days.
Well, we could, and sometimes we are, but I'm going to first, let me just read a statement I put out there on Facebook today.
Okay.
This is, I think this was the first post I posted today. Actually, it is. The violently cut afterbirth human remains is an aborted vessel by definition, which means every single birth certificated child, in quotes, ever recorded is an abortion.
Yes.
That's what I posted today. That's kind of what got me going down this path. Is, again, the violently cut afterbirth human remains is an aborted vessel by definition.
Yes, it is.
Which means every single birth certificated so-called child ever recorded is an abortion. So that's what's on the record. Mm-hmm. So on the record is an aborted vessel. So every birth certificate evidences an abortion, 100%.
Absolutely.
And of course, all birth certificates become what? They become the binding agreement to a one nation under God, and it also becomes the suretyship for all of the relatives, the DNA related, the biologically related living people to that aborted vessel. So they're using this cut material. The bankers are using the abortion to fund the entire
Speaking of that,
world.
Someone said, although I haven't been able to verify it, is that on the commodities market, that blood is the 10th or 12th most traded commodity, specifically baby's blood.
Of course it is.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It's he shed his blood for you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is the sacrificial aspect of our own existence. We've all been sacrificed to the greater good.
Yes.
The greater good is nothing more than the cesspool of fetal DNA. Good meaning unborn of animals. That's the cut material. So again, these aborted measures is the one nation under God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the word? What happens to us after they cut and we fall? What happens to the cut child, the unborn child? The key word would be raptured.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So they're using the concept of rapture and the character that has been raptured. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Where am I here? You were going to say something.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So let me. And we're going to the word
issue.
Issue. Let's go to issue right now. Okay, issue. Look at that. Number one, a vital or unsettled matter. A vital or unsettled matter. Look at how weird that is. Most people can't see this, but a vital matter or unsettled matter.
They both fit.
Vital or unsettled matter. So we need to know what vital is. We already know that unsettled means that it hasn't settled down. It hasn't found its place yet. Mm-hmm. It's moving. Mm-hmm. It's movable. Mm. It's movable. Like a movable chattel.
Wow.
But it's an unsettled matter. That means it's movable from place to place. What's really strange when I just look at the vital or unsettled matter is an issue. Mm-hmm. Vital probably leads to the word life. We can look it up, but unsettled means that it's moving around. Mm-hmm. Now, of the two potential, the cut material gives two positions. When they cut the umbilical cord, baby with 2 arms, 2 legs, a brain, breathing, living, filled with the Spirit of God, the breath, goes home, and that matter, that biology, eventually gets up and walks around on its own. Mm-hmm. It's unsettled. Mm. When is the only time that your biology will be settled?
Last breath.
After you're dead. Mm-hmm. When they put it all back together in the same place, all of you will be settled. You will no longer move. Mm-hmm. That's the final settlement. Mm-hmm. Is when your biology goes in the ground. That's the settlement. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, even when I'm sitting here at the dining room table flailing my arms like an Italian, I'm not settled. I'm moving. Mm-hmm. That's unsettled. So the indigenous person, the baby that comes out of the womb and moves around for an entire lifetime is unsettled. Mm-hmm. And of course, somebody that's unsettled would be considered homeless. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If you have a home, you would never be considered unsettled. I mean, when I open that gate and drive my truck into the driveway and close that gate, I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
This thing that I'm in right now that most people would view as a house is my settlement. It's where I settle down at night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm settled here, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm still living and breathing and what have you, but this is my home. So again, the home itself would be considered the settlement.
Uh-huh.
But where was the home of the baby moments earlier?
It was inside the womb, inside the extra embryonic material.
Yes. So the home for the embryo, the home for the fetus, the home for the baby, and ultimately the home for the man is the extra embryonic material.
Yeah.
And they just cut it off of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're homeless.
Yeah.
You're homeless. So for the rest, I won't say the rest of your life, but for all of the time, and I mean time, Gregorian calendar time of the birth certificated character, you're unsettled.
Mm-hmm.
You're homeless, which would put you into the position of
a vagabond.
Pauper, vagabond, and fugitive from justice.
Yeah.
You're homeless because they cut your home off of you, your actual source, your home land. They cut you off from it, and you're unsettled.
Yep.
It's you become the unsettled matter, which is the issue.
Yes.
Now, what about the vital matter? Well, let's look up vital real quick.
Okay.
Once again, you know how I work. Vital. Look at this. I'm just going to go through these really quick. Of the utmost importance. Fundamentally concerned with or affecting life or living beings, such as tending to renew or refresh the living, invigorating, destructive to life, mortal. 2, concerned with or necessary to the maintenance of life, existing as a manifestation of life, full of life and vigor, animated, characteristic of life or living beings, recorded data relating to lives. And 6, of relating to or constituting the staining of living tissues, which again is your biology on a plate. What's weird about this is that all of it goes back to the original matter, the vital matter, because the zygotic human remains left behind, cut off of you, the umbilical cord and extra embryonic material, without it, you could not be here. That material is not only your home, your original homeland, it is vital to your existence. It's both. So when I'm going to get out of vital now and I'm going to go back, it says vital or unsettled. What's amazing about the word issue is that with the cut, both the unborn vital material and the unsettled man on the land, the indigenous person, are both issues. There's 2 issues because of the cut.
Yes.
The unborn and the born, the Christian and the heathen, if you want to look at it that way.
Well, and I think it's interesting that their example is economic issues.
Which is the deposit, the biological deposit that forces the relative, i.e. baby, to be surety, and forces the baby to perform as surety through a warranty deed for that deposited material.
Yep.
So when they write a warrant for your arrest, when somebody writes a warrant for your arrest, it's because they have a piece of your biology on deposit evidencing a promise to pay. And again, if they would have not cut the umbilical cord, if they would have delivered all of you into the present moment as one unit, the second issue, the second coming, for those of you that know what that means, the second coming. Number 2, I always called it the little shit. But the second coming is the afterbirth. The amniotic, the amnion,
right.
the Lamb of God, biblically has a name.
Jesus, Mary,
So,
Mother, and no cut, no second coming.
no cut, no second coming. Even the unum sanctum. When they speak of a second coming, I'm going to go to unum sanctum real quick. Unum sanctum, the last paragraph says, therefore, whoever resists this power thus ordained by God resists the ordinance of God unless he invent. We're talking about an invention now.
Mm-hmm.
Invent, like Manichaeus, two beginnings, which is false and judged by us heretical, since according to the testimony of Moses, it is not in the beginnings, plural, but in the beginning that God created heaven and earth. Furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it's absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman pontiff. So they're talking about this second beginning, this afterbirth material. How many beginnings do you have?
One.
One, and what is it called?
A fertilization.
Fertilization. Mm-hmm. There's your beginning. Mm-hmm. When they cut the cord and they say, listen, now there's another beginning, another narrative born to this Gregorian calendar. In my case, another beginning, September 19th, 1960 at 3:50 a.m., 40 weeks after the act of creation. Mm-hmm. Even Rome says, no. There is only one beginning, and it's ordained by God as an act of creation, ultimately. Mm-hmm. So that Rome isn't arguing. Mm-mm. Rome is saying there is no two beginnings. Mm-hmm. Now, why would Rome say that? Well, they're telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And remember, Rome ultimately was based upon nature or paganism. So Rome is siding with nature. But ultimately, there was a group of monotheists that they called themselves the Christians, mm-hmm. that were getting into the Roman mindset that was tainting Rome with their beliefs. Now, it doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. It's the fact that the Christians were getting powerful enough that Rome had to recognize them. Mm-hmm. And Rome did recognize them with Constantine in 1325.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Rome didn't give up nature. Rome allowed those Christians and their ideas or ideals to exist, but only within nature. You see that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They even gave them their own calendar. Rome still was using the lunar calendar, the Anno Mundi calendar, as the moon cycles, whereas the solar Christian calendar, the Gregorian calendar, was introduced, and it doesn't begin until year one. What's really strange about this is you got the lunar cycles in the womb, and then you have the solar cycles outside the womb where the sun shines. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Does the sun shine in the womb? Mm-mm. No, but the womb is subject to what?
Well,
the lunar cycles. Yeah, the lunar cycles.
Definitely the laws of nature, and nature's God.
Right, but does not the woman's own body relate to the moon?
Yes, in the moon cycles. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So the female body's still relating or relative to the lunar cycles, but when we come out into the sunshine, into the light of day, mm-hmm. that's the solar calendar. Outside the womb.
So what's your opinion as to them claiming that they had to have salvation over the human creature, the Roman pontiff?
Rome was laying claim to the origin of man. Mm-hmm. The human creature, the left behind human remains after birth, evidences your true natural origin.
Yes, absolutely.
Doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So Rome is saying, listen, the nature is subject to Rome. Now, again, we think of Rome as being this all-powerful whatever, but Rome is nothing more than global paganism, which obviously is a very nasty word to Christianity. But again, that's divide and conquer.
Right.
I'm trying to be very serious now that regardless of what you believe, they're irrelevant when it comes to nature.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why Roe v. Wade is such a huge problem, because all life begins at fertilization.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you believe. But what did they do to control everybody is to introduce the separation itself and give the separated material a birthday.
Yeah.
Now, how did Rome actually then capture everybody through what should be nature or the natural process? Think about this. Rome and Roe v. Wade is based upon conception, isn't it?
Yes.
And what is the definition of conception now?
It's implantation into the wall of the uterus.
Implantation into the wall of the uterus, which happens 7 to 14 days after creation. And when my biology implants into my mother's uterine wall, that's called conception now. And now me and my mom are somewhat intertwined. We're joined.
There's a joinder.
We're joined. There's a joinder, which then becomes a temporary easement between my biology and mom's biology. Now, in the biblical story, they talk about Mary and Jesus. Well, Mother Mary, the church itself, the church could be mother itself or the female. Now, my biology has implanted into the church, into the wall of the uterus, the female. And Jesus is what? Is the Lamb of God, which is also the amnion that surrounds me in the womb.
Right.
Which is also my biology.
Yes.
So my biology, i.e. Jesus, is now implanted into the wall of the uterus, the church. So Jesus and Mary, my biology and my mom's biology, only occur at implantation. The church is relying upon the Jesus and Mary connection. That's what they're claiming with the human creature. When the human creature, the afterbirth, comes out, what does the afterbirth actually evidence? It evidences my biology implanted into mom's biology.
Yes, it does.
The placenta is a feto-maternal organ, and that feto-maternal organ evidences Jesus and Mary. What's funny is they call Mary the handmaiden of Jesus, the handmaiden.
Yes.
What I'm getting at is that the Rome is claiming the Jesus and Mary aspect. They're not claiming the living baby, the spirit-filled breathing baby.
No.
It says it right also in Unum Sanctum, where it says, the spiritual man judges of all things, and he himself is judged by no man, 1 Corinthians 2:15. So Rome is allowing the breathing, living, breathing, filled with spirit, spiritual, inspired man. They're saying he's not to be judged. But we got to be really careful here. Where did he come from? Where did that living, breathing, spiritual man, spirit-filled, inspired man, where did he come from?
From fertilization.
He came from fertilization. So from fertilization all the way outside the womb to breathing on your own, that's one unbroken timeline, isn't it?
Yeah, and one unbroken timeline. There's no unsettled matter. There's no
separate vital issue.
There's no separate vital issue. There's no human creature. There's no abortion.
There's no way to chain God to a piece of paper.
I love that.
That's what they do with the paper. They chain God, i.e. the spiritual man, the breathing, breath-filled, inspired spiritual man to a piece of paper by that spiritual man believing in a birthday.
There's no image.
We're going to get to that. That's going to be frightening for people.
Yeah, wow.
So,
there's nothing
again,
to make an issue of. If you go down farther you can't take issue. You can't make an issue. There's no dispute.
There's no second coming.
There's no second coming. There's no Jesus and Mary. There's no...
If there's none of that separation, then there's no need. I mean, the boat that I was inside the womb, the extra embryonic material. I was inside that. Mm-hmm. That's the ark of the covenant between me and my Creator.
Yes.
But they cut that boat off of me. Mm-hmm. And then they say that boat needs to be rescued. That boat needs to be salvaged. Mm-hmm. And by leaving it behind in the womb, still attached to the wall of the uterus, it's still in the waters of mother, which places it in admiralty. Mm-hmm. It's in the waters of mother still.
Mm-hmm. And it's still in joinder with the mother substance too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And even the Bible says at Revelation 18:4, King James Version says, come out of her. Mm-hmm. To come out of her. They're talking about to come out of the mother.
Yeah.
To come out of that situation. Mm-hmm. Come out of those waters.
Yeah.
Look at how they've trained us. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm not saying this is bad or good. I'm just saying that they keep us using nautical terms. Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, a rising tide floats all boats. I'm not in a boat.
Yeah.
I'm not anywhere. I'm on land. Mm-hmm. That's where I live.
Yeah.
What do I care about a rising tide?
Right.
How about when somebody says, well, sink or swim? Mm-hmm. Well, what are you doing in the water? Mm-hmm. Why would you say sink or swim when you're not in the water?
Right.
All of these ideas that they got us using are all water-based so that they can keep us mentally in the water. Mm-hmm. And again, if we're in the water, we need to be salvaged. Our boat, the boat that we left behind, the boat that was cut off of us, the boat that's presumably abandoned, needs to be salvaged through admiralty law. Keep
you anchored in the water.
There it is. Mm-hmm. And of course, then what? So now my boat, I'm the ship captain, but my boat has been abandoned or lost at the Sea of Mother. Now I'm out on the land as an indigenous person. Mm-hmm. The captain that has no connection to his godly origin. He's a heathen.
Yeah.
Indigenous persons don't have rights. Mm-mm. First of all, they're broken. It's the broken man, the fallen man. Mm-hmm. And if he's the fallen man, he needs what?
Salvation.
Mm-hmm. So by cutting you apart, by destroying the whole, by ruining what God created, they create two positions, an unborn position and a born position. The unborn is an aborted vessel, and the born is a heathen.
Yep.
With no rights.
Yep.
That's how devastating it is to cut that umbilical cord and recognize it as two separate things.
Yeah.
When in fact there's only one. Now, to be very, very clear about this, if they don't cut the cord and all of it comes out as one unit, mm-hmm. Is it still all you?
Yes.
Be careful.
No, it's not all me. It is still got mother's
so even baby umbilical and extra embryonic, which is all you, mm-hmm. has a piece of mother attached to it through the placenta.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Even if it all comes out as one unit, as far as your biology, it still has mom's biology attached to you. Mm-hmm. Now, there's something I got to be clear about that. So your biology, there's an easement still evidenced by the placenta. There's still a temporary easement because ultimately, does the living man on the land, does he require that placenta to? Is it vital to the man on the land?
Mm-mm. But it does.
No, it's not.
But because there's still that easement, could be looked at as an unsettled matter.
It could be looked at as an unsettled matter. Mm-hmm. Whose biology is attached to you? I always think of it. Yeah, I always think of mom's biology attached to me at that point.
Yeah.
No offense to my mother, but if I'm whole, WHOLE, and that material's still attached to me, it can't be anything but a parasite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if they use that fetal, baby, maternal mom organ as something not me or something not mom, then that mother and child organ becomes a third party, third person.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my email to you.
Okay.
So I can see where we're really going. Because I can talk about this stuff over and over and over, but most people don't realize it's always the same. It comes down to the same thing. But I'm going to go to the email real quick because I think if we just run down this and then we can talk just easily about it. So where are you at? Oh, there it is. All right. By the way, on this email to you, that you see that there is a Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that later today or at some point when you get some time, because it is very important to see where they're going with this and the words they use in that Rumble video. You'll see that I believe that this whole Roe v. Wade issue is because of my letters and ultimately our letters.
I totally agree with that.
They got to do something about trying to recapture sureties for the international banks, because realistically, without us and our energy and our labor pool, they got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why COVID exists. I think that's why the World Health Organization, by the way, again, cutting the cord is part of health. People don't understand that when they cut that cord and leave a piece of you behind, that piece of you that's left behind is a patient forever.
Mm-hmm. And
it never gets discharged from the hospital.
Yes.
It's always a patient. It's a patient forever.
Yeah, and it's the cut man, human, H-E-W.
It's the hewn H-E-W man, the human, the cut man, the fallen man,
the patient, the
fee,
the Rain Man, the one that needs to be institutionalized man. It's the...
And of course, the movie Rain Man, R-A-I-N, is raiment, R-A-I-M-E-N-T, the fetal raiment, which was covering you. So Rain Man was the brother's misinterpretation, or what he was hearing, but in reality, he the institutional brother, is the raiment, the fetal raiment that was cut off of you.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of all the words they use to confuse the issue there.
Well, also remember that what was surrounding you in the womb, they might call it man's covenant with God, but what was surrounding you in the womb was the armor of God.
Yes.
And they cut that off of you, and they offer it back to you through a piece of paper.
Yes.
And if you don't know how to utilize that paper, if you don't know how to, if you don't understand what that paper represents or represents, then you will be condemned. You will be condemned. It is a condemnation. All right. So again, the first word I have up here is abortion, because that's what we're ultimately going to talk about today. Abortion. I'm just going to click on the link and I'm going to read it.
Okay.
The termination of a pregnancy after, accompanied by, resulting in, or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus, such as spontaneous expulsion of a human fetus during the first 12 weeks of gestation. It says compare miscarriage. B, induced expulsion of a human fetus. By the way, I got to be clear about what a fetus is. The moment a fetus crosses the threshold of the vagina into the new world, the word fetus changes to baby. Now think about that. There is no fetus outside of the womb.
Wow.
So when baby comes out, picture this. Baby comes out, there's an umbilical cord attached to the baby's tummy.
Mm-hmm.
That umbilical cord then straddles or goes back into the mother, attached to the rest of baby, which is the extra embryonic material, which is attached to the wall of the uterus via the placenta. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you have baby outside the womb. You have an umbilical cord straddling the world of the born and the unborn.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the womb, do you have baby or fetus?
Before
it hasn't come out of the womb yet.
It's a fetus before it.
It's fetus still.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, it's still in the womb. So now what you have is baby outside the womb, an umbilical cord straddling the worlds of the unborn and born, and inside is the rest of what I call baby, but inside the womb it's called fetus.
The rest is still fetus. Oh, wow.
The rest of your story, the rest of the story, the rest, R-E-S-T, rest in peace. The rest of the story is the fetus. It's still fetal material.
Wow.
It's not born. It's the unborn. It's considered goods.
Wow.
So look at that very moment baby comes out, because it's baby now outside the womb. You have an umbilical cord that goes back into the womb, straddles both worlds of the unborn and born. But on the other end of that cable, on the other end of that cord, is a fetus, fetal material.
Wow.
It's not baby in there.
No.
So now they cut the cord. They clamp and cut the cord, and baby's outside. What do they have inside the womb?
A fetus.
A fetus or fetal material.
Mm-hmm.
A messed up, mucked up, incomplete fetus.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't have the fruit at the end of the stem. It doesn't have the rest of it. It doesn't. It's not complete. It's an unborn fetal material.
Wow.
At the same moment, you have a baby and fetal material or a fetus.
Wow. It's amazing.
Got it?
Yeah, it's amazing how words can use to clarify or confuse. Wow.
Now, what's the likelihood that fetal material inside the womb is going to turn into a baby?
None.
0.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look what it says, abortion. Expulsion of a fetus by a domestic animal, often due to infection at any time before completion of pregnancy. A contagious abortion in some cases. Look at number 2 says, a mishappen thing or person, a monstrosity.
Yeah.
Is that fetal material, that so-called fetus still left behind in the womb, is that a monstrosity?
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, understand that baby has 46 chromosomes. Mom has 46 chromosomes. Mm-hmm. What does the placenta have?
92. 92?
Yeah. It's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
So when that fetal monstrosity comes out, it's already, by definition, an abortion.
Yes.
Monstrosity.
Yep.
Shapeless.
Yeah.
A mishappen thing.
Mm-hmm.
By definition.
Yeah, wow.
Look at this. B says some informal, sometimes offensive, something regarded as horrifically or disgustingly bad. How many people do you know, if they saw the afterbirth, would go, "Oh, that's disgusting"?
Yep. Pretty much everybody I know.
Everybody would look at it and say that. But they don't realize that that is the armor of God. That is the origin of the species. That evidence is the act of creation. And somebody says, that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's the remains, the human remains of the baby.
Yes.
It, in fact, completes the baby. It makes baby whole from fertilization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at this. Number 3 says, arrest of development resulting in imperfection. Is there any chance that fetal material that's left behind in the womb, is there any chance it's going to develop any further?
No.
That's arrested development.
Yes, absolutely.
So when a cop puts you under arrest, are they talking about the baby, or are they identifying the arrested, developed, the material that was left behind and placed on the record?
It's the arrested material.
Yeah, they're not arresting the man. Mm-mm. They're actually identifying the arrested material that was left behind that did not progress into the present. Mm-hmm. When somebody says, when a cop asks you, what's your birthday, you're under arrest. Mm-hmm. The birthday is an arrest.
Yes, it was arrested in that moment.
And they give it a birth date. Mm-hmm. The date of arrest.
Yes.
Hell, I mean, realistically, does that material have a heart?
No.
No, it's heartless.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Does it have a spine?
No.
No, it's a coward.
Mm-hmm.
It's spineless.
Yeah,
it's a shell of a man.
Yeah. Well, all of those.
It's an empty suit.
Mm.
I think this stuff is funny because it is an empty suit until you put it on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my next link was to abort. So abortion leads you to abort. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go to abort, and that's kind of where abort, to bring forth stillborn, non-viable, or premature offspring. Is the fetal material that's left behind in the womb stillborn?
Yes.
Yes, of course. It's born alive. It is actually living biology, but is it going to survive?
No.
No. And something that is dead or dying, by definition, is called a decedent.
Yes.
It's already dying. It's not. It can't survive. Mm-hmm. They cut it off of you. It doesn't have your heart. It doesn't have your lungs. It doesn't have your brain. It doesn't have anything that allows it to actually exist on its own. It is stillborn. Mm-hmm. This is what abort is all about. Mm-hmm. Non-viable. It's not going to exist.
No.
It can't live.
No.
Premature offspring. What is the absolute origin of you?
Well, it's either fertility.
The zygote, the single cell.
Yeah, the single cell zygote. Mm-hmm.
How is that not the furthest point away from maturity?
Yes.
It's the ultimate premature. Mm-hmm. So when they bring forth the afterbirth placental material, mm-hmm. by definition, it's stillborn, non-viable, and premature.
Yeah, it is.
Next, it says to become checked in development so as to degenerate or remain rudimentary. Rudimentary is that material that does not develop. Is the seed of the oak rudimentary to the oak tree?
Yes.
Of course, the seed is the beginning.
Mm-hmm. As the zygote.
I'm going to go to
as the zygote
is to the man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The zygote is the acorn. Mm-hmm. As what? The man is to the tree.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Abort. To induce the abortion or give birth to prematurely. To terminate the pregnancy before term. To terminate prematurely. To cancel. To stop in the early stages. Obviously, when they cut the cord, they separate fetal material from now the baby. Mm-hmm. And that fetal material is not going to progress at all. Mm-hmm. The abort noun, the premature termination of a flight, as of an aircraft or spacecraft, a mission or an action or procedure relating to a flight. I don't think people understand what flight actually means. If I get up, I'm standing up now, walking across my living room. Mm-hmm. Am I in the ground?
No.
I'm not, am I? I'm actually above the ground.
Yes.
My spirit, which is inspiration, which is breath, allows me to soar above the ground. Mm-hmm. Am I tied to the ground?
No.
No. I'm like a satellite. Mm-hmm. I'm floating across the ground right now. Mm-hmm. Untethered. Ground control to Major Tom.
Yep.
I'm untethered. I can move anywhere I want.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Sounds like I'm unsettled. Mm-hmm. Homeless. No, I know where my home is. Mm-hmm. My home was the zygote. Mm-hmm. Biologically.
And the extra embryonic was our spacecraft.
It was the boat, the spacecraft that we came in on. Mm-hmm. And think about that. The zygote exists on its own, let's say, floating in space, i.e. the waters of mother, and around day 7, it lands. Mm-hmm. It lands in the wall of the uterus. Mm-hmm. Kind of a crash landing, but nevertheless a landing. And they're saying that our spacecraft now did what? It landed on Mother Earth, or the mother, mm-hmm. the mother ship, the mother vessel, the mother, the motherland, mm-hmm. Maryland. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going back to the email. So that was abort. Now here's why you know it's an abortion. The word delivery. Yeah. Let's go to delivery and then scroll down to medical definition. Now we're at delivery, Merriam-Webster online, and scroll down to medical definition until you get to the medical definition. It doesn't make any sense. I know. Now, you read it to me. What does it say for medical definition of delivery?
Medical definition of delivery: the act of giving birth, the expulsion or extraction of a fetus and its membranes.
Stop. A fetus and its membranes. Mm-hmm. Does it say a fetus and its cut membranes? Mm-mm. No, the fetus and its membranes are one unit, mm-hmm. one biology. Mm-hmm. So delivery means delivered, W-H-O-L-E, whole.
Yes.
If they cut the umbilical cord, did they ever deliver anyone?
No.
Nobody has been delivered. There's been no completed delivery.
Mm-mm. Everyone is actually aborted.
Everything left behind, the vessel that you came in on, the spacecraft you came in on, the boat you came in on, the Ark of the Covenant that you came in on, was not delivered.
That's right. And the communication cord between from the captain and Mr. Tom, what is it? How does it go? The song?
Major Tom, ground control to Major Tom.
Yeah, Major Tom's connection to ground control was cut off.
Right, and so the ground mm-hmm. is your extra embryonic material, mm-hmm. which is still attached to mother's biology in the placenta. Mm-hmm. So ground control to Major Tom, they were connected through the umbilical cord. Mm-hmm. But once they cut the cord, Major Tom is on his own. Mm-hmm. He's been disconnected. And, of course, the line of communication. What's another word for communication?
Cable.
Communion.
Oh, communion. Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, it's okay. You were right. I'm saying is that the cable, mm-hmm. the umbilical cord is not only a line of communication between ground control, the placental material, but it's also a communion between the captain and the vessel.
Yes, and it's also...
It's one. It's one. It becomes one unit.
Yeah, well, and it's also the baby... Major Tom is also cut off from his armor of God.
He's outside the ship. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have the Ark of the Covenant anymore. He's on his own.
Yeah.
Now, again, remember, this is all one unit biologically.
Mm-hmm.
Major Tom, the cord, and the vessel he came in on is all biologically the same exact DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But when they cut it and leave the captain, Major Tom, I should say, out there in space, mm-hmm. disconnected mm-hmm. from his only vessel.
Yes.
The only connection. He is no longer in communication.
That's right.
I want you to think about that vessel carrying all of his property. Mm-hmm. He's disconnected from his property, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's disconnected from everything he could possibly carry. He's disconnected from everything he produces in his lifetime. Mm-hmm. He's disconnected from his bank account.
Yes.
And if he's disconnected from his bank account and he's out there traveling around and he has no line of communication to his bank, we're right back to pauper, vagabond, and fugitive from justice.
And did not issues say, as an example, in the first definition of it said a vital or unsettled matter, and the example was an economic issue, and is not that to do with property and money and all those things?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Look at, so now the captain, which is actually Major Tom, out there in space is disconnected when they cut the umbilical cord. Mm-hmm. That cord leads back to what's called PHI, phi, the divine proportion. Yeah. What is the divine proportion? The extra embryonic material evidences my mom and dad. It evidences creation. Mm-hmm. It evidences all those that came before me in the Kallenbach and Pappas lines.
Yes.
I have the blood running through me through 23 chromosomes of dad and 23 from mom, but the vessel itself, the vestige, the earliest version of that, the phi, PHI, divine proportion, has been left behind. Mm-hmm. That is my money. Yes. That's my inheritance. Mm-hmm. They cut me off from my inheritance.
Yeah, violently.
And then they say, what? We're going to put all of your inheritance into a Cesta KV or a In God We Trust, and we're going to manage it for you until you wake the fuck up. Mm-hmm. But even when you wake up, we're not going to give it to you, because all the rest of the sleeple, the people that have remained asleep, are the court of public opinion, and they don't want you to have it.
Yeah.
They want you to continually be taxed. By the way, the cut material is a tax. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A custom. It's a customary cut, a custom cut. Yes. It's a tailored suit.
Yes.
And it's tailored to fit you. Mm-hmm. It's an empty suit until you lay claim to the birthday. And now you have just subjected yourself to a suit.
You filled the suit.
Yeah. It was an empty suit till you claimed it. And now you've subjected yourself to arbitration courts. Why? Because that suit, that left behind material, is not just yours. Mm. Who else has a claim on it?
Mother.
Mother.
Not mom.
Now, if that material, the fetal-maternal placenta, if that material now is no longer considered you and not considered mom or mother, because why? Because it is a composition of matter. It's composed of both baby and mom, right? Mm-hmm. Or baby and mother, I should say. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, 35 USC 101 kicks in for inventions patentable.
Yes. And
they use the word invent just like Unum Sanctum did. Mm-hmm. unless they invent, like Manichaeus, two beginnings. Mm-hmm. Well, inventions patentable means that they took that placenta, the fetal-maternal composition of matter, which neither baby nor mom can claim as their own, and they created a third-party, third person.
Yep.
And it's a new invention, and it has its own patentable position.
And then it can be put in a public pool, and it can be used for economic issues.
Again, if I leave my car, my spaceship in your yard, mm-hmm. ultimately, and I abandon it, mm-hmm. if I abandon my spaceship in your yard, if I abandon my biological armor of God spaceship in Maryland, in Mary's land, Mary has a claim. Mm-hmm. Mary the church has a claim.
Mm-hmm. And if Mary if Mary takes the parts of that spaceship and take it apart and sell it to create money for itself, it's on its land.
Well, and that's what people don't understand, is that the vessel I came in on, when it lands into the wall of the uterus, and then I come out, I'm Major Tom, I'm the ship captain that doesn't go back for the ship, doesn't go back for the vessel. That vessel lays there in Maryland, on Maryland, in the placenta. Mm-hmm. And then they patent the placenta. Mm-hmm. What is it? What did they patent? They patented the combination
mm-hmm.
of my biology and mom's, which is a 92 chromosome monstrosity, but it is patentable mm-hmm. as a third-party, third-person thing. Mm-hmm. So now those people that own that patented third-party, third-person, i.e. the Roman Catholic Church, mm-hmm. they're the ones bringing you into the court.
Mm-hmm. And
you're fighting for your life.
Yes.
Now, before I forget, we're going to go to Just 30 at some point, but I want you to realize that when you go into that courtroom and you're fighting for your life, mm-hmm. but you accept something else in place of that.
Yes.
Remember that when you go into that courtroom and you understand your godly origin and they offer you money or your life, but you don't know that offer is even being made, because if you're in that court action and they're talking about Federal Reserve notes and they're not talking about in kind, in specie, when you go into that court action, you need to be talking about having your property returned in specie, because that's your biology. Mm-hmm. You can settle this matter once and for all if you get it back in specie. But if you keep accepting Federal Reserve notes or money of account and not specie, what have you done? You sold your soul.
Yeah.
You're allowing your biology to remain there as surety, mm-hmm. which is nothing more than selling your soul. You're allowing your existence to be prostituted, your biology, for money.
Yes. So
take your pick. You can either have your body, you can have your biology, you can have your life in specie, or you can have money. Federal Reserve notes. Pick one. You only get to pick one, by the way. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm just trying to get... So in specie, in a courtroom, if I ask for in specie, I'm not sure I'm clear. I know I'm asking for my biology, but how would that... I can't quite see how that would work in...
That's because you can't wrap your head around an equity.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
You're not thinking in terms of equity. Mm-hmm. When you think in terms of equity, you're talking about a share of something. Mm-hmm. The placenta has two owners. Who are they?
Mother and baby.
If you're looking at the placenta as one thing, it has two owners, which means you have a share in the placenta.
Yes.
If the placenta represents a third party or third person, you have an equity in that third party, third person.
Mm-hmm.
A piece of it.
Yes.
If you take your species, your biology, out of that third party, third person, does it exist anymore?
No.
No, it's like taking the chocolate out of a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Right. Yeah.
The Reese's peanut butter cup doesn't exist anymore, so the share, the equity doesn't exist, even though the equity is what's being identified.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an equity, it's biological.
Yes.
It's a biological equity in the third party, third person.
Mm-hmm.
If they put that third party, third person on deposit and they gave it a value, an insured value, if you accept the insurance claim, the insurance money, you have still not taken back the biology out of that equity.
Mm-hmm.
You need to demand back in specie to actually terminate that third party, third person once and for all.
So
when you do that,
for the biology is what I'm.
Say it again.
I'm demanding the biology, the in specie.
By demanding in specie, you're demanding back your 46 chromosomes out of that third party.
Got it.
The placental character. When you take your 46 chromosomes out of the third party no longer exists. Mm-hmm. The matter has been settled once and for all.
Yes. Got it.
Will you ever be asked to attend any lower court again?
Mm-mm.
Never. Because they don't have an arbitrary, they don't have anything to bring you in on, because the entire system is founded upon that placental third party, third person. Mm-hmm. If you demand your species, your biology back and not take the money.
Got it.
Everybody goes in there thinking they're fighting about money and fines and what have you. You're not. Once you establish an equitable position, then you need to demand back your share in biology, which is called specie, in specie. Once you remove your species, man, from that fictitious third party, third person, his story doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. You see that?
Yeah, you're taking back your life.
You're taking back your life. Mm-hmm. But people are more concerned with money, and so they don't realize that because they have not been awakened to the point that it's biology that's on deposit that has been given a value. And all we do is talk about the value that we recognize as money, i.e. Federal Reserve notes or whatever, instead of saying, listen, I just want it back in specie. By doing that, we actually settle the account once and for all. When we recognize that we're getting our life back. Mm-hmm. You're getting it, but you can only get it back in specie.
Yeah. So we argue about the paper, the distraction, the money, instead of the reality, the biology, the species.
The biology, yes.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
I think I'm really bad at telling jokes, but there was a joke where a guy walks up to a woman and says, would you take $100 to have sex with me? And she says, are you kidding me? How about 1,000? Are you kidding me? How about 1,000,000? She stalls for a second, and then he says, well, now that we've established what you are, we just now haggle over price. Mm. The fact that she's even contemplating, or he, even contemplating the money, establishes the fact that money became a factor.
Yeah.
And once money becomes a factor, we already know who we're talking to. Mm. The courts know that it's about money. And all they got to do is offer a high enough dollar value, and we'll take the money. Mm-hmm. When what we should be doing is saying, under no circumstances is my species involved in this. Mm-hmm. So I want everything back that has been placed on deposit. I want it back in specie. Mm-hmm. And by getting it back in specie, i.e. biology, you get your life back. Yeah. When you get your life back, there's nobody there that has a claim, a public claim, upon that biology.
It's your money or your life. It's the
the money or your life.
Yeah, wow.
But you got to demand it back in specie. And by the way, the specie is the equity.
Yeah.
It's the equity or your share of the placenta.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Okay. So that's it. That's how you settle the account.
Mm-hmm.
You settle it by demanding it back in specie.
Mm-hmm.
But first you have to identify what it is that they have on deposit, or the third party, third person, 35 U.S.C. 101, inventions patentable.
Mm-hmm.
It's that tertium quid feto-maternal organ that nobody has ever claimed.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. I've never gone back, although I've written about it. I've written to the hospital. I've written to the state. I've written to hundreds of letters all over the world, all over the country, all over the nation, all over the whatever, which we'll get into soon enough. But nobody, I don't get any response. Silence is acquiescence. But you know what? I'm all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about the species, origin of the species, which is the zygote. Nobody cares about that. All they care about is money. All they care about is how they look, the image.
Right.
Which leads us to the next part of the email.
Yeah.
We already know the undelivered, the cut material is not delivered. It's an incomplete delivery, thus it's not a delivery at all.
Mm-hmm.
They have never delivered us. Nobody has ever been delivered at a hospital. So here it is.
Deliver us from evil.
Deliver us from evil. That's right out of the Lord's Prayer.
Right.
Deliver us from evil.
Yeah.
What is evil? But the mere image, E-V-I-L, is the image of L-I-V-E. Deliver us from the image.
Wow.
The image. The idol. Deliver us from the image. Why do so many people say, well, we were created in the image of God? I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't created in the image of God. What are they talking about when they talk about the image? They talk about the flat surface, mirror surface, XY axis image. They talk about the narcissist, the one who falls in love with his image in the lake.
Yeah.
Curtis Richard Kallenbach, the piece of paper, is a representation of the material, the biology they took on deposit. They take my godly origin, the biology, the in specie, they take that.
Mm-hmm.
They let it die as a decedent estate, and they give it an image, a piece of paper, that represents that matter. The image of God.
Mm-hmm.
The paper is the image of God.
Wow. And then we fall in love with being special one day of year on that day. And so we get attached to celebrating it every year because it makes us feel special when all we're doing is celebrating our own death.
We're celebrating the execution or the chaining of God to a piece of paper.
Yes.
That's what a birthday represents, the celebration of chaining God to a piece of paper.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean I can almost hear all the religious folk screaming and crying that this is blasphemy, when in fact blasphemy is the second coming, the celebration of the afterbirth, the decedent material.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really funny is the Lamb of God, i.e. the amnion, is allowed to die. That sounds like a blood sacrifice to me of the Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody that's agreeing to the birthday, the cut, is agreeing to the death
mm-hmm.
of that original material, the boat that you came in on.
So if we look at the word evil and live, they're choosing evil.
By choosing a birthday, it becomes original sin.
Yes, wow.
Original source, sin, if you all you have to do is look up debt, D-E-B-T at Webster's, and debt and sin are the same. So the original debt is the boat you came in on.
Wow.
You've sacrificed it. That boat is being held in abeyance. That boat is at a lost and found right now. That boat is costing you your life because you have abandoned it. The word that the Bible thumpers would use is forsaken. You have forsaken the very vessel that got you here.
And it's right there. You can't.
It's right there.
It can't ever be alive. It cannot never be live. Ever.
It's the image, because when they reduce that biology, and I'm talking reductionism here, when they reduce the biology to paper, when they take that three-dimensional living essence and reduce it to an XY flat earth piece of paper, they've reduced man, they've reduced God to a page, a folio page, a portfolio.
Yeah, and it's right there on the back of the one I have from the hospital that has an image of my footprints and the image of my mother's fingers right there.
And there, I needed you to bring that up again. That document you have evidences the biology of baby and the biology of mom on a piece of paper, and that gave rise to a birth certificate. So is the birth certificate for baby, or is it for baby and mom?
It's for baby and mom. It's right there on a piece of paper. It's called a birth certificate, and it has...
And it's for baby and mom.
It's for baby and mom.
So now I'm going to go to the Shepard-Towner Act of 1921, and I'm just going to Wikipedia. And we've talked about this before, fairly recently, as a matter of fact. And it says the Promotion of the Welfare and Hygiene of Maternity and Infancy Act, more commonly known as the Shepard-Towner Act of 1921, that provided federal funding for maternity and children and child care. Sure. There it is right there. Maternity, mother, child care, baby. Mom and baby.
So
the mom and baby that's getting this funding is the placenta, the feto-maternal organ. Go ahead, you were going to say something.
Well, it's sort of a joke, but I was watching some stupid movie last night on Netflix, and this guy was saying that you should watch for wolves, and he goes, heck, you shouldn't watch for wolves, you should watch for the shepherd. The shepherd is herding all those sheep around and intends to eat them, and it uses the wool off of them. They're more dangerous than the wolf.
Well, and again, the wolf in sheep's clothing. The lamb or the sheep is what they're using to hide a wolf.
Yes.
So when you speak of the lamb, a cover or covering separate from the whole, the separation of that lamb, amnion, from the whole, they're using that as the sheep or the sheep's clothing to hide the wolf. And the wolf is an idea. So they're able to undermine or capture your inheritance through a belief system.
Your species.
You're the species. The species of man is now fully captured by using the lamb, the clothing, the cover of the lamb, to hide the wolf.
And don't most people think of shepherds as benevolent too?
Yeah, they're doing all the good stuff to keep these sheep alive until harvest or until it's time to shear them or kill them for food.
Yeah, shear them once a year, every April 15th.
One giant global state farm.
Yeah.
Okay, good versus evil. Let's go to that now. I mean, we already know that good, by definition, is the unborn of animals. So good, the unborn of animal, the human remains, the cut material, are the goods. That's the goods. Evil is the image of those left behind goods.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do something so people can actually, I'm going to go stand in front of a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this before. I got up, I walked over because I'm like a satellite above the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Yep.
I'm floating above the earth because I'm not connected to the earth, am I?
Yep, that's right.
Ground control. By the way, I'm still connected. Mentally, I'm still connected to ground control. I completely operate this vessel I'm in, right?
Absolutely.
And the other thing that people don't understand is when I talk about the separation of the fetal material, the umbilical and the extraembryonic, when I know that's a physical cut, a physical separation, a violent act separating substance from substance. But evolution says I evolved beyond the need for that material.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still using the exact same biology, am I not?
Yes, absolutely.
So even though it was violently cut off from me and removed and placed somewhere else in the world, I'm still using that biology, am I not?
Yes.
And if I'm still using it, has it ever been abandoned?
No.
No. As long as I know my godly origins fertilization and I don't accept the fictional second coming, second creation birthday,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still using the exact same material that was created at the zygotic level.
Absolutely.
No, so I haven't abandoned anything.
Mm-mm.
I just have to know it. I have to have knowledge of my godly origin being fertilization rather than implantation, i.e. conception, or a birthday. Because the birthday actually identifies the material, the combined material that was created at implantation. Mm-hmm. When my biology plants into the wall of the uterus and creates the placenta, when the placenta comes out, it gets a birthday. Mm-hmm. So the birthday is for the conceived material, the conception. It's not for fertilization, the living being created at fertilization. It's the birthday is for the composition of matter known as placenta.
Yes.
Okay, so that's an immaculate conception.
Yes.
It's a conception that is a perfect idea. Immaculate, perfect conception idea. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect idea. Now, I'm going to get up, and I'm standing in front of the mirror. I'm about 9 feet away,
mm-hmm.
and I still have my pajamas on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still early enough. So I'm standing in front of the mirror, and I'm looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I'm describing what I'm seeing right now. I'm looking in the image. There's an image in the mirror. By the way, is the mirror flat?
Yes.
Of course it is. I'm looking in the mirror. I see an image that is like me. But I'm filled with the breath of God in front of the mirror, before the mirror. I stand before the mirror filled with the breath of God. I have God. I am inspired. I'm in spirit. I'm the spiritual man to be judged by no man.
Yes.
1 Corinthians, and I'm standing in front of the mirror. What is in the mirror?
An image. A mirror.
An image.
A mirror.
Well, a mirror image would be M-I-R-R-O-R, but it could also be confused with a mirror image, M-E-R-E, which means mother.
Right.
So I'm looking at an image that is in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to think about this. So, that image, does it have any life?
No.
No, and what's really weird is I'm moving around. I feel stupid doing this at 61, but I'm moving around looking at the motion in the mirror. Mm-hmm. But is there any life in that image, even though it's moving?
Mm-mm.
There's no life in that image. It's reflecting. It's a representation of where I'm located right now, but even the representation of where I'm located is 9 feet away.
Yes.
So if I'm physically located in space, I'm talking about coordinates now. In space, 3-dimensional coordinates, which is why flat Earth doesn't work.
Yep.
I'm standing in my living room upright. I'm standing on the ground, but I'm also at the z-axis as up. Mm-hmm. I'm upright. I'm upright because I'm filled with the breath, the spirit, and I'm upright because I have a spine.
Yes.
If you take away both the breath and the spine, what happens to me?
You fall on the floor.
I fall, the fallen man.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting at is even the image in the mirror, it looks like motion, it looks like movement, but all it is a reflection, a representation of life.
Yes.
And life is where I stand 9 feet away from the image.
Yes.
When they create the image 61 plus years ago on September 19th, 1960 at 3:50 a.m., that image is where it's at. Did it move with me? Did it move with me in time or space to where I am today?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
It's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
It's located where it's located. I don't even know where it is. I'm assuming that where it fell, where that image was created, the image of the biology, the image of the placenta, which is on paper. I don't know where that's located. I'm assuming that somebody picked up that biology and moved it, relocated it to some other place.
Mm-hmm.
In Haslam versus Lockwood, the waste material of the horse became subject to the borough, the public, because it fell on the public road.
Right.
So that waste material became subject to the public first, and then whoever value added, raking up that waste material or whatever they did. I'm talking about Haslam versus Lockwood, 1871.
Mm-hmm.
So when that waste material fell to the ground, it became subject to the jurisdiction of the borough or the public.
Mm-hmm.
When a couple of other guys came in and started raking it up and taking it away, they argued over who owned the waste material.
Mm-hmm.
But the waste material is not waste material if the owners of the horses actually laid claim to it.
Mm-hmm.
If the horse owners laid claim to the manure, the waste material, then that material would not be viewed as abandoned.
Right.
If it wasn't viewed as abandoned on the public road, then even the borough couldn't make a claim upon it as abandoned property, and the two guys that were fighting over that waste material wouldn't be arguing over it either, because it's not even available.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
As trover or treasure trove or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm getting at is that if it's not viewed as abandoned, if it's not viewed as waste material, it's not available for the public either.
No.
So wherever that cut material fell to the ground, and in my case, Swedish American Hospital. So Swedish American Hospital is a corporate entity.
Correct.
Follow me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that biology fell to earth or fell to the ground in Swedish American Hospital, a corporate entity. Swedish American Hospital was located in Rockford Township or the county of Winnebago.
Mm-hmm.
So now the county of Winnebago or Rockford Township or the city of Rockford might have a legitimate claim to the abandoned waste material if I don't lay claim to it
mm-hmm.
in a year and a day or a specific period.
Mm-hmm.
But again, where is Winnebago County or City of Rockford? Where are they located? In the state of Illinois or Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And where's Illinois located? It's located in one of the 50 lower 48 states, I should say, the lower 48 of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But where's the United States located but as an idea over the top of North America?
Mm-hmm.
And where is North America located but within the doctrine of discovery laid claim to by the Pope?
Right.
So what I'm getting at is, if this material is presumed abandoned by me, its owner, at any point, all of those jurisdictions can actually argue that that property belongs to them.
Yes.
But in reality, it belongs to no one because I have yet to abandon it. I'm still using it.
Right.
Is this wonderful or what?
I know.
By the way, how am I deducing this? I'm deducing it through my self-determination and self-governance.
Yes.
I'm actually able to critically think about reality through Isaiah 9:6, and the government shall be upon his shoulders.
Your mind.
If I'm self-governing, does the 1789 constitutional government affect me?
No.
No, the Bill of Rights are actually in play because the Bill of Rights are for living men. So the Bill of Rights are in play, but the Constitution is for a corporation, a company, something else. It's not my government. How about any religious government? Is any religious government my government?
Mm-mm.
No. I have yet to abdicate my self-governance. Because I know where I begin, my godly origins, fertilization, and I know where I'll end, last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And everything between those 2 points is in my dominion.
Yes.
As the sovereign over this property, over this life. Good versus evil. Good is the unborn of animals. Evil is the image of that unborn, of that cut material. So let me ask you something. Good versus evil sounds like a choice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if there's no cut material left behind, is there any unborn of animals?
No.
No! It's not good versus evil. It's all versus nothing.
Yeah.
I'm either all here, because I used to be unborn, but then I came through, what? The threshold of the womb, the birth canal, the vagina, into this realm outside the womb. But I am one biology.
Yeah.
I used to be in there, and now I'm out here, but I'm still only one biology. There is no left behind good versus the image, evil. Good versus evil isn't even part of my existence because there's no left behind material to give rise to the evil image.
Right, and there's nothing that's not live.
No, it's all living. It's all living.
Right.
I mean, even the material that was left behind, because I'm still using it, is still living.
Yes.
Again, if I lost my arm in an accident, now this is going to get really ugly for people. If I lost my arm in a farming accident, which used to be quite a thing,
Yep.
the arm that fell to the earth is still my biology. There's nobody that can lay claim to my biology.
No.
How about this? And to prove it, if I was working on your farm and I lost my arm and it fell to your farmland, do you as the owner of that farmland have a claim upon my biology?
No.
That's exactly the same thing as implantation. When my biology plants into the wall of the uterus, does my mom have any claim to my biology?
No.
No, it's a temporary easement called placenta. My mom can't claim my biology. So my DNA, my 46 chromosomes, is my private property. And that's where, again, the common law people are going to struggle with this, and religious people are about to really struggle with what I'm about to say. But the common law people don't understand that the common law has never recognized absolute ownership.
Right.
If the common law doesn't recognize absolute ownership, then who owns my biology?
It muddies the waters. Where you have to, the only truth is that you own your biology. No one else can own it. No one else is in it. No one else can live in it.
My 46 chromosomes is unique, and my 46 chromosomes is my property. The spirit that is housed in this biology right now is the owner.
Yeah, that's right.
I am the owner of this biology, and that means all 46 chromosomes, and that means everywhere it's located. Ever. There is no mixing of my 46 chromosomes with anybody else.
And I can tell you that my sister and I have had these discussions, and it is never mixed.
It never mixes. Biology never mixes.
No.
And to prove even that, well, Kurt, what about when mom and dad get together? No. My dad had his own 46 chromosomes, but he didn't give me his 46 chromosomes. He gave me 23. So even the biology of a man and woman do not mix. They only give up 23 chromosomes from their or of their 46. They never mix. Nothing ever mixes. 46 chromosomes does not mix with 46 chromosomes. Now, back to the cut arm. If I want to continue being able to work in this society, most of society looks down upon or frowns upon the one-armed man.
Yes.
So what did they do? They create a prosthetic.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Now I have a prosthetic arm. It looks like two arms. From a distance, you'd never see that I only had one. From a distance, I would look like a normal living being.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a prosthetic that replaces the biology. A prosthetic that replaces the biology. Understand that the amnion, known as the lamb, also known as Jesus in some circles. When they cut the umbilical cord, they cut that off of me, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize that Jesus becomes a prosthetic?
Yeah, I see it.
When I claim Jesus as my salvation, I am using a religious prosthetic to make me whole again.
Yeah.
Jesus is a prosthetic. Jesus is a prosthesis.
Yeah.
To make you whole, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or isn't it? Because it's an idea.
It's an idea.
It's a religious prosthetic, yes. And according to Unum Sanctum, who controls that prosthetic?
The Roman Pontiff.
Yeah, the Roman Pontiff controls the prosthetic. Mm-hmm. So they created and they invented, through a composition of matter, a Jesus and Mary prosthesis.
Mm-hmm.
Through the placenta.
Yeah.
And the only way you can be made whole again is to go bend a knee to Rome. Mm-hmm. You have to go before the court and be forgiven through their mercy. That mercy, then, you receive a prosthetic limb.
Mm-hmm.
And that prosthetic limb is known on paper as the birth certificate.
Yes.
And historically, that birth certificate used to be called a certificate of indulgence.
Yes.
So Jesus is nothing more. Jesus, the amnion, that has been violently amputated from you, they give you back a piece of you through your belief, your faith.
Yeah.
Full faith and credit. You now have access to your history, to your inheritance, through a prosthetic.
Yep.
Now you can reconnect to the other side of the river, of the bank, the other bank, the bank that is overseas. You can now reconnect to your bank. You can now communicate with your bank, so now you can pay the bill.
Mm-hmm.
But they call that communication communion.
Yeah.
The only way you can actually reconnect with your bank account, your history, your inheritance, is through communion.
Mm-hmm.
With the prosthetic. Via the prosthetic.
According to their rules.
According to...
If you agree to join with them through the birthday.
Well, remember that that the world, the commercial world uses exclusively the Gregorian calendar.
Yes.
For commerce.
Mm-hmm.
The Gregorian calendar is a timestamp on a commercial vessel. The commercial vessel is that birth certificate. The birth certificate is your reconnect to your inheritance, the Sestikevai,
mm-hmm.
or the In God We Trust. The world itself is ecumenical. It's called ecumenism.
Mm-hmm.
Ecumenism is commerce between Christians. All Christian denominations work together through the ecumenical council. That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with Christian commerce.
Yes. Yeah.
Between denominations, which require the deposition or deposit of your lamb, the sacrifice of your lamb, in order for you to have the portfolio page evidencing your ability to pay based upon your faith and credit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But it's all one thing. It really is a prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
It fills a hole that really isn't there except through your own admission.
Mm-hmm.
When you accept a birthday, you are cutting yourself off from your inheritance, your father's name,
mm-hmm.
the origin of the species. You are no longer a living being. You have chosen evil, the image of God, over the spirit-filled man.
Yes.
You've chosen it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, they even call it a chosen action.
Yes.
Chose, C-H-O-S-E, a chose.
Yeah.
And the chose is actually that fetal-maternal placental property, which is also known as a tertium quid. And I'm going to go to tertium quid. I think is that the next one up?
I think so.
No, actually, I have good versus evil and then Roe v. Wade, but I'm going to go down to tertium quid real quick. This, by the way, again, when we actually sort of explain why Roe v. Wade is coming up, it'll all make sense again. So a tertium quid at Wikipedia says a tertium quid, T-E-R-T-I-U-M space Q-U-I-D, refers to an unidentified third element that is in combination with two known ones. Well, let's just stop there. My biology is one element, and my mom's biology is another element. My biology is 46 chromosomes. Mom's biology is 46 chromosomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says an unidentified third element that is in combination with two known ones. When you put my biology and my mom's biology together, i.e. the fetal-maternal placenta, that placenta it becomes a third thing, a third element, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Combining 46 chromosomes times 2. A 92 chromosome third thing. Goes on to say the phrase is associated with alchemy. It is Latin for third something. Literally, it means third what?
Third person. Third
person, third party.
Mm-hmm. Him.
Now, go back to him. Mm-hmm. Not me, not you. Mm-hmm. Him. His story. Mm-hmm. History.
Mm-hmm.
Where does life exist? It only exists in the present.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is not me in the present, but becomes his story in some fictional past, some fictitious realm, it becomes a tertium quid.
Yeah.
And the fetal-maternal organ is neither mom nor me, and it becomes subject to 35 U.S.C. 101 as an invention patentable as a composition of matter.
Mm-hmm.
Rome, through the human creature, unum sanctum, human creature, after birth, second coming, cut-off material, has a composition of matter that has been patented.
Mm-hmm.
And that letter's patent, or the patented position, is experienced through a birth certificated character.
So look.
And who owns Madonna and Child?
The church.
The church. Rome does.
Rome. So look up quid in Merriam-Webster. I'd never done
Okay,
that.
going to quid. Quid, definition, Webster's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
So you can have the money, or you can have your in species right there. The first one is
quid.
A pound sterling.
A pound sterling, which means silver.
Mm-hmm.
Definition of quid, entry 1 of 2, a pound sterling. So quid is a pound sterling.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that when they talk about the pound of flesh,
mm-hmm.
the pound of flesh,
mm-hmm.
pound for pound, a pound of flesh for a pound sterling.
Yep.
What is noun number 2 defined as?
A cut or wad of something chewable.
A cut.
Mm-hmm.
Or wad of something chewable. I'm going to say right now that tertium quid is the cut material. And it is a quid made up of two elements.
Mm-hmm.
And those two elements become a composition of matter. And that composition of matter is subject to 35 U.S.C. 101, inventions patentable. The third party, third person is an invention by Manichaeus, a new beginning, which is why you're being punished. When you use that third party, third person, you're actually being punished. Because your godly origin is fertilization, whereas the origin of that implanted material is now called conception.
Yep.
Pick one, fertilization or conception.
Fertilization.
Right. Fertilization does not have a birthday. Conception does. Conception is 7 to 14 days after creation. So when you choose birthday and you choose conception, you actually abandon God. It's that simple.
Yep. Click on.
By the way.
Go ahead.
By the way, I and my Father are one. Another biblical statement. Now, that is John 10:30 out of the King James. I and my Father are one. Remember that the zygote, my dad offered 23 chromosomes.
Yes.
The zygote has 46 chromosomes.
Yes.
I am the fruit or the product of the zygote. I'm not the product of my dad. I'm being very, very specific here.
Yes.
The zygote is like the acorn to the oak.
Yes.
The zygote has its own offspring. The zygote is the father of the embryo. The zygote is the father of the fetus. The zygote is ultimately the father of the baby and thus the man.
Yes.
The zygote and I are the same biology. I and my Father are one.
Yes.
All right. Now you were going to say something before I rudely interrupted you.
And he that is whole need not a physician.
Luke 5:31. They that are whole need not a physician.
Yes,
Again, if I'm whole from the beginning, from fertilization, I don't need to be put back together. And if I don't need to be put back together, I don't need the glue that would hold me together. A glue is a bonding agent. If I'm not broken, I do not require a bond. And thus, I don't require a bonding agent. They that are whole need not a physician. I don't need to be fixed if I'm not broken. Fertilization to last breath. All present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. There is your WHOLEMAN, your whole man.
I guess what I see in the word quid is you can choose money for the pound of flesh, pound sterling, or you can choose the second definition that is referring to biology in species.
Right, so there it is. You're exactly right. You can either choose the pound sterling or the pound of money, or you can choose the cut material, which is in species.
And if you have, click on quid pro quo, quid pro quo. It says
quid pro quo.
Something given or received for something else. So again,
so you get a prosthetic limb called Jesus for the actual biology they cut off of you.
Yep.
And then you need to go and bend a knee and claim Jesus as your Savior, but Jesus is a middleman between you and God.
Yep.
I thought there was nothing and then there was something. I thought the act of creation evidence is God, and the product of that act of God is the zygote. And that zygote is my biology. It's actually me. So where between God and me, where between God and the evolutionary product called zygote, I say it's where Darwin meets God, but where between the act of creation and the thing created does Jesus fit? He doesn't. He doesn't even exist yet. because Jesus, or the Lamb of God, has yet to be formed, has yet to be subdivided into such a vessel or a membrane.
Mm-hmm.
There is no space between the creator and the thing created. There is no middleman. There is no need for a middleman when you are directly connected to God.
That's right.
It's contrived.
Mm-hmm. Totally contrived.
Somebody inserted themselves between you and God.
And I think the thing that strikes me about the word quid is that's where the distraction is, that we get focused on the pound sterling, because in Christian commerce we have to have a species to trade with another man, and so then we get lost in that instead of realizing that we're trading our life for it.
You're choosing the pound sterling or some other form of money over life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only do that through the character. You can only do that through subrogation. You can only do it through the prosthetic.
So that's really where you could say the whole idea of money is the root of all evil.
Yes, because they took the very root of biology, the source or origin of the species, and placed the root on deposit, and everybody chooses the money over the species itself.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, you just blew my mind there. The root of all evil, the root of the evil, the root of the image
of the not life. Yeah.
Which is the mirror image, or the image, the paper image, the reduction. The root of that image is your species or your biology.
Wow.
On deposit. Wow. As long as you allow the cut, you allow the root to remain separate from you, and as long as that root is separate, then they give you a prosthetic or an image of that root, and then you work through the ecumenical Christian economy through that middleman.
Yeah.
They probably call it, what do you do when you exchange something, when you trade something, when you need to go to Europe and exchange dollars for drachmas or dollars for something else, what do they call that?
An exchange. It's conversion? Conversion.
The only way you can have money in their system is to convert Jesus or your biology, the amnion itself, to dollars or to pound sterling.
And then we can go. The prosthetic is the. Is it? I can't remember what amendment it is.
It's the portfolio. The prosthetic actually is the portfolio or the page that identifies your deposition or deposit. So again, it's all they took in species on deposit, but we only accept money.
Yeah.
Or currency, debt notes.
Yeah.
Because we don't know our godly origin.
And in truth, it's. Every time we do that, we're accepting double jeopardy, aren't we?
Well, you can't accept double jeopardy because it's already something. Mm-hmm. So, but real quick, back to quid pro quo: something given or received for something else. They took the placenta, mm-hmm. a feto-maternal tertium quid. Mm-hmm. And they gave, and you have evidence of this, they gave a birth certificate that evidenced the baby footprints, in your case, and mom's fingerprints mm-hmm. on one document. Mm-hmm. That baby and mother and child, Madonna and child, Jesus and Mary, gave rise to a birth certificate mm-hmm. that becomes the portfolio that is used through faith and credit to pay the bill. Mm-hmm. It's a blood sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. And on the front they have a time and a date done in international signature, in an international day, month, and year. And on the back Not only do they have the baby's footprints and the mother's, but they also have the family history. So,
which is PHI, or the divine proportion, or phi.
Right, they have the father and the mother, and then they even say where it's registered. The Bureau of Vital Statistics.
Vitality, life.
Mm-hmm.
So by allowing your life to be placed on deposit, they give you a prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know what they gave you? They gave you a robot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. We were at a graduation the other day, and one of the grandkids talked about, I mean, he's only like 3, but he talked about robots. And I started laughing, and I went home and I looked up robot. That machine part device known as birth certificate becomes a robot. Your robot.
Yeah.
I'm going to robot definition of Webster's real quick.
I'm there.
Look at it. Remember that in the mirror, even though that character moves around or looks like it's moving, the image,
mm-hmm.
is there any life in it?
Mm-mm.
No, it requires me, filled with the Spirit of God, out here in the present moment in order for its representation or mirror image to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any movement or motion capabilities without me.
That's right.
Okay. Look what it says here. Definition of robot. A machine that resembles a living creature. In being, capable of moving independently and performing complex actions. Often such a machine built to resemble a human being or animal in appearance and behavior. Again, take that person out of your purse or your wallet. Look at that driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
There's an image or an appearance
yes.
of your face, just like the reflection in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
It's a robot. It's the robot. That character, that thing, that machine part is a robot to a larger democracy, global communism, whatever words you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
But they've chained the Spirit of God. They've chained God to a piece of paper.
Yes.
And I think that should really, really bother the religious people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to a word real quick. The word is revival, R-E-V-I-V-A-L. I want to bring this up now because they're talking about a spiritual revival. They're talking because of Roe v. Wade. They're talking about religious belief systems winning over secular ideas. The reality is life begins at fertilization, and a woman controls her own body.
Mm-hmm.
That's reality.
Yeah, and they're distracting with secular versus religious again, just like they've distracted with guilty or not guilty. Neither. There's no choice there, really.
Well, you just brought something up. Good versus evil, neither is true.
Mm-hmm.
Because good is the unborn of animals, which implies there is an unborn position, yet that's not true in my situation because I used to be unborn, but now I'm here. Mm-hmm. So, and there's no separation between that. It's called biological continuity. Mm-hmm. From fertilization to this moment, I've never been dead. Mm-hmm. There is no dead end. Mm-mm. There is no death. There is no deceit into state possible. That being said, good versus evil, not guilty versus not guilty. That's not a choice either, because what about innocent? When you're whole, you're innocent of either position.
Yes.
Same with red versus blue. Red is oxygenated blood filled with spirit. Blue is deoxygenated blood without spirit. Mm-hmm. Dead bodies. Mm-hmm. So again, red versus blue isn't the choice. Not for the living. The left versus right. How about this? I'm going to go stand in the mirror again. I'm standing here, I'm holding my phone in my left hand. But the character I'm looking at, the mirror image, the image is holding it in its right hand.
Correct.
Which one's correct?
Neither. Well, the one that you are the one that's correct.
There's only one truth.
Mm-hmm.
The image is not, the image is a reflection.
Right. The truth is you, the living, are holding it in your left hand, I believe you said.
Absolutely. So I'm standing here filled with the Spirit of God with this phone in my left hand. The image, which is not true, has it in its right hand.
Yes.
How can they both be true?
They can't.
They can't. They can't be true. By the way, one last thing about looking in the image. I'm looking in the mirror right now. And the character in the mirror has the phone in its right hand.
Mm-hmm.
When I look forward from my spirit-filled vessel, my body, my biology, when I look forward into the mirror, what am I looking at?
A reflection.
I'm looking at the past.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what's so important to understand about the image. When I look at the image in that mirror, light takes time to travel.
Yeah.
So between my eyeballs and the flat surface of the mirror, back to my eyeballs is time.
Yeah.
So the image in the mirror is not actually truly representative of my coordinates in time and space.
No.
I'm standing 9 feet away, 7 feet away. But the time it takes for light to travel from my eye to the mirror back to my eye, the image in the mirror is in the past.
That's right.
What's even more interesting about the image is when I look at that character in the mirror, everything behind that character is actually behind me.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in front. Even though I physically am looking forward, everything I see is in the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the image is it does not ever actually represent the present. It cannot be an accurate representation because any record or representation is not the present.
Correct.
It's always the past. So anytime you're dealing with the representative aspect, the image itself, it's not present.
Wow.
Does life exist anywhere but the present?
No.
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 So by dealing or allowing this other image to exist, I call it the American Idol, by the way, but allowing this other image to exist, you cannot.
No.
There can only be one. When they speak of the image, they're speaking of the past.
Yeah.
Do you exist in the past?
No.
No.
I
So
can't.
you have to be sacrificed. The present has to be sacrificed for that image to exist.
Yes.
What's strange about that is even biblically, Jesus uses the words I am,
Yes.
which represents the present.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conjugation of the verb to be,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Shakespeare says to be or not to be, which means either I am or I am not.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm standing here filled with the Spirit of God, I am, which means presence, but the image in the mirror, which is in the past, has no I amness.
Mm-mm.
It has no presence.
No. No.
It requires me to exist.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's a duality. That's a duality.
yeah, I mean, it's just as the tertium quid requires a piece of you to exist, even the image can't exist without you. If you walk away from that mirror, there is no image. And if I claim
No.
who I am and know myself from fertilization to last breath, then there is no third him. It doesn't exist either.
That's exactly right. When you remove your biology, when you remove in specie your biology from the public trust, there is no piece of you subject to the public.
No.
Which I'm just going to say in passing. Those people that are claiming to be state nationals are allowing for the cut.
Yes.
They're allowing the duality to exist, because if I arrived to the soil of Illinois, I'm going to call that the state. But realistically, I arrived to the state outside the womb. There are two states of the born and the unborn. That's two states of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Unborn is one state, born is another state. And they can look at as two different places.
Mm-hmm.
But through biological continuity, I can only be in one place at a time. I used to be in the womb. That was one state of existence. Now I'm outside the womb, which is another state of existence. But I'm only in one state of existence ever.
Yes.
If I arrive on the soil of Illinois, then I arrive into a state within the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
That's my port of entry to the new world beyond the womb. I am now what they would call an Illinoisan, based upon the location, the point that I arrived in or at, Illinois, within another contrived boundary.
Exactly.
But nevertheless, what's that?
Well, it is a contrived boundary, and there is the public, what's the word you call the public agreement is that it exists, but you arrived in a moment in time, and whether if there was no America, no label, Illinois, no label, Rockford County, no label, any of those things, you still arrived in reality.
To the same exact coordinates.
Yes.
Whether there was a hospital there or not, I arrived at those coordinates. Whether Winnebago County existed or not, I arrived at those coordinates in time and space.
Yes.
That all the fictions are irrelevant to the whole man.
Mm-hmm. Say that again.
This is important.
Say that again.
All of the fictions, all the jurisdictional or fictional jurisdictions are not relevant to the living man.
Thank you.
Remember the maxim, fictio cedit veritatis.
Yes.
Fiction yields to truth.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth is actually identified, all the fictions like dead skin slough off.
Mm-hmm.
My presence negates all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't buy into his story, because if I buy into his story, I cannot be present. There can only be one.
Mm-hmm.
Revival, by the way, back to Webster's. Revival is an act or instance of reviving, the state of being revived, such as renewed attention to or interest in something, a new presentation or publication of something old, a period of renewed religious interest, and often highly emotional evangelistic meeting or series of meetings to the restoration of force, validity, or effect. Revival.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do I need to be revived?
Mm-mm. No.
From fertilization to last breath?
No.
No. I've never died.
Mm-mm.
I don't need to be revived. I've been vital. I've been living the whole time.
Yes.
If they cut the cord and a piece of me dies or is presumed to be dead, or a decedent estate exists in that name, that needs to be revived. That needs to be resurrected. Not me.
And if I choose to have to get identified with any of those contrivances, then I'm saying that I'm not whole. But I'm still giving up a piece of my species to something else, am I not? Like the state citizen, national.
Your silence or your willful participation is going to be viewed as an agreement.
Yeah.
A meeting of the minds. A contract.
A contract.
But if there's no meeting of the minds, a contract is an impossibility. So do I choose to allow the fictional cut and revival, the fictional cut and resurrection? Do I really need a piece of paper to act as a prosthetic to give me life?
Mm-hmm.
I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't require a middleman to give me life.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I'm going to click on the Palermo Protocols because they're very clear about something. That's Palermo Protocols. I'm going to click that on that link that I sent you.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And I really want to I'm just going to bring this up because people need to understand what this fetal-maternal organ does. And the fact that Rome is saying that this Madonna and child fetal-maternal composition of matter is something that should not be taken lightly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to Article 3 of the Palermo Protocols. It says, for the purpose of this protocol, this is Article 3, the Palermo Protocols, trafficking in persons shall mean the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power or a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation shall include, at a minimum, the exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude, or the removal of organs. Removal of organs. When they cut and take away the placenta, have they removed an organ?
Absolutely.
And is your biology a species within that tertium quid composition of matter? Is your unique 46 chromosome biology part of that organ?
Yes.
If they cut and take that organ away from you, is trafficking in persons now a thing?
Yes.
The moment they cut and took that organ, it became trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
The medical industry is directly linked to trafficking in persons.
Yes.
The existence of a portfolio page entry, ledger entry is evidence. Whoever is using that piece of paper that evidences that happening, that cutting, that amputation, whoever uses that, which implies that organ separate from you, is involved in trafficking.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to be clear that...
And if I choose to claim that birthday, then I am a party to that trafficking too.
Because they're speaking of the cut and removed extra embryonic material that is still part of the placenta, which makes it a organ. So yes, you are willfully participating in trafficking if you use the birth certificated person to your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah.
If you don't use it, you can't go buy bread or get a job. If you do use it, you're guilty of trafficking in persons.
Mm-hmm.
your choices that you believe exist.
Yeah.
But if you know your godly origin is fertilization, and you go all the way back to fertilization and lay claim to that origin, you and the Father are one. And as one, you don't need to make the choice. Because there is no choice. In reality, there is no choice.
No.
Now, in the latest Crow Call, Suey spoke about the placenta. And he actually said that the maternal aspect of the placenta wouldn't exist at all without the fetal implantation.
Right. That's created for the benefit of the zygote that is implanted. It doesn't. That's what all that blood that flows out every month is there for that opportunity for that event to happen. But if it doesn't happen, there is no maternal part of the placenta. Absolutely.
It doesn't exist without the implantation. But here's the thing. You can't get past the idea that mom's biology is not my property.
That's right. That's all.
So the placenta in its entirety is not me, and thus I can't claim it. Yes. I definitely can claim my biology out of that placenta.
Yes.
All I have to do is identify it. I don't have to say the placenta's mine. I just say that the fetal part of the placenta is my biology.
Yes.
Now, if they won't separate it, then I get all the whatever comes along with my mother's property. If my mom is tied to the Vatican Bank and I only identify my claim, but they force the placenta into existence, then as the owner of the fetal biology, then they got to give me the effects of that fetal biology. 22 U.S.C. 288B in the United States Code says when the owner, the baby, arrives in connection with, there's the umbilical cord, is its baggage and effects. Mm-hmm. Well, there's the extra embryonic material, and the effect of that extra embryonic material is the maternal part of the placenta.
And that's where the whole thing of the dowry and all of that comes into.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get everything.
Mm-hmm.
It says when an owner arrives in connection with his baggage and effects, there is no IRS and there's no duty to perform. Mm-hmm. I don't need to jump through any hoops like a monkey.
Right.
I know.
We'll just
two more
that.
things. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, we'll just skip that.
Well, we've been on for 222. I'm going to go through two more things. Number one, I'm going to go to Roe v. Wade, just at Wikipedia.
Okay.
Because choosing the words is so funny to me. Roe v. Wade, 1973, was a landmark decision. A landmark.
Yep.
A landmark where my biology is impressed into the land of mother, the motherland.
Yep.
It's a landmark decision.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely made a mark as it implanted, and it was definitely decisive.
It was my first impression. It's where I landed upon this planet, or we'll call it Gaia. If all females are considered part of Gaia or Mother, then that's where I landed from by floating in space, the waters of Mother, to the actual landing site. The landing site would be the uterine wall.
Yes.
Okay. It says it was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. Now, here's the thing. When they speak of abortion, they're talking about killing or cutting off or arresting the progress or arresting the evolutionary process.
Mm-hmm.
They're muddying up the waters.
Absolutely.
What they're saying is that a woman has the right to choose. Why? Because then the cutting of the umbilical cord becomes acceptable. Because the cutting of the umbilical cord is an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
It's an it aborts the fetal vessel and leaves behind the fetal vessel. That's an abortion.
Yeah.
So they needed to find a way to make it legal to cut the umbilical cord.
Without excessive government restriction. They got around it that way.
They got around it by allowing Roe v. Wade to make it look like a woman's making a decision so that the international banks still have suretyships.
Mm-hmm.
That way, cutting the umbilical cord and the presumed abandonment of that in specie biology happened for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Without anybody actually committing a crime.
Right.
If they undo Roe v. Wade, they're going to make it seem like the woman doesn't have a choice.
Yep.
All I'm saying about it is that life, every embryologist on planet Earth will agree that life begins at fertilization.
Mm-hmm.
From that moment to this moment as you and I speak, I'm still alive. I'm still living, I should say, even though they cut the cord, and cutting the cord by definition is an aborted measure.
Yes.
I'm still here. So even though they created an aborted vessel, I'm still a living man. I was a living baby, I was a living fetus, I was a living embryo, and now I'm a living man.
Yes.
I've never been dead, even though, by definition, cutting the cord created an aborted vessel.
So they're using a highly emotional evangelical issue, a revival, to muddy the waters once more about the fact that they need to make abortion acceptable to the general population, and the government's going up. I'm going to keep my fingers out of it.
You used evangelical. I'm going to use fundamental Christianity.
Yes.
There's nothing more fundamental than the act of God resulting in the zygote.
That's true.
When they cut off that fundamental aspect, basically they cut off the Christianity from the man on the land.
Yeah.
They cut the fundamental Christianity off with the cutting of the umbilical cord. Mm-hmm. Now, the beauty of not cutting the cord is that the fundamental Christian vessel, the armor of God, the Ark of the Covenant, comes through the birth canal with baby as one unit. Mm-hmm. Now, baby or I should say, heathen indigenous baby and the Christian vessel, the Ark of the Covenant, come through as one unit. Mm-hmm. There's no separation now of church and state.
Right.
Remember that, or state and nation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be clear about that again. Illinois is one of the 50 states within the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Illinois is a state of the United States. So what in the world is the nation? So I come out of mom as baby, cut off. Baby goes into Illinois, hits the ground. My feet are planted within the boundaries of Illinois as an Illinoisan. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just soli, born to the land.
Yeah.
But just soli also means indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
By separating church and state, they created the ability to separate the indigenous on the land, just soli, man, i.e. heathen, from the Christian bank account, the Christian inheritance, the fundamental Christianity. Mm-hmm. So here's what they did. They have the state, and then they have the national or the nation. What is the one nation under God? What is it composed of?
It has the one nation under God is.
It says under God, so it should. You already know.
It's
what part of you is in a nation under God?
It has to be the tertium quid, the placenta.
It's the placenta. Mm-hmm. It's the Gregorian-born, Gregorian calendar-based tertium quid, feto-maternal, Madonna and child placenta. Mm-hmm. That character is in the nation under God. Mm-hmm. That biology becomes the res, or the object of the in God we trust. Mm-hmm. What we have now is we have the state, a lot of these people claiming state national. To be claiming a state national is to allow that for this cut material to be viewed as a separate Christian belief or deposit. Mm-hmm. You have the heathen, indigenous, of the soil, on the land, state. And then you have the Christian national with the res of the in God we trust being the cut material. If you're claiming to be a state national, you're claiming duality.
Yeah.
Nature doesn't allow for that. Thus, the laws of nature, nature's God, do not apply. The Declaration of Independence will never apply to a state national or the separation of church and state.
Right.
It can't. Nature doesn't recognize that.
And neither does the Bible or the church.
And neither does the Bible.
Because everyone needs a physician who claims the duality, and the Bible says that, the church says a spiritual man can be judged by no man. They're all saying it, aren't they?
So to claim a state national position requires a middleman, mm-hmm. which is the Catholic Church and the Bank of England. Mm-hmm. The pound of silver, the pound sterling, again, state national is right back. It's from frying pan to fire.
Yeah. It's still controversy, no matter how you look
at it. Because, again, the nation, I don't understand why people, again, if Illinois is part of a country, then to claim a national, what are you claiming to be part of there?
Yeah. And the only place I know nation is one nation under God.
That's the only place I know, too.
That's not
one nation under God, yes. So separation of church and state means that there's two positions. Mm-hmm. When in nature, the laws of nature and nature's God doesn't allow for two positions.
Right.
You need to be healed as a state national.
Yes.
Anybody promoting the state national position is is actually misinformed, or they're working for the wrong team.
Well, you either are healed or you're the boot. You're under the heel of the boot.
Well, be careful, because healing implies needing to be healed.
Yes, I know, but if you're either way, if you resist the healing, then you get the boot. You get stomped
Okay,
on.
so what is reality? If the healing implies the need to be healed.
If there's no cut, there's no healing needed.
There you go. I was waiting to hear that.
If I don't have a cut on my hand, I don't need to put a bandage on it to fix it.
You don't need to be healed if you're not broken.
Yeah.
You don't need to be fixed if you're not broken. You don't need a bonding agent if you're not broken. And that's where they got everybody.
And they say it everywhere. They that are whole need not a physician. The spiritual man be judged by no man. The laws of nature and nature's God all say the same thing.
When when you think of the sword and the stone,
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking about that. I already know that the stone or the rock upon which Peter built his church is the placenta.
Yeah.
That's the stone.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the sword?
Well, the sword cuts.
The sword, I look at it this way. I look at sword as S
A
word.
The S word.
The S word.
Mm-hmm.
The S represents a serpent.
Mm.
The serpent represents the sperm.
Mm-hmm.
So the S word or the sword, if the S word and sword are one and the same thing, and they represent the serpent, i.e. sperm, then what is the S word for you? What's your sword?
The S, if it's my...
What again? Be real. Think about it.
What's my father's? It's my father's 23 chromosomes.
It's your father's. If it's an S word, what is the word?
The word of God.
What is the word your father gave you?
My name.
Which name?
My last name.
You don't have a last name. What name is it?
Linda.
No. What is the name your father gave you? See, you're getting confused because you said last name, and I said no.
Mm-hmm.
There is no last name. So, but what word did your father give you?
Hildred.
There it is.
Hildred.
There's the sword.
Mm-hmm.
There's the sword. And again, the S word, the sword, and again, when you look at, I'm not getting after you, I'm just saying,
no,
when you look at the staff or rod, the rod of Asclepius,
mm-hmm.
what do you look at? Rod of Asclepius. Just go to Google rod of Asclepius, go to Wikipedia, and what are you looking at?
Okay. It is a rod with a serpent around it.
It's a phallic rod with a serpent symbol or
mm-hmm.
Serpent surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
The rod of Asclepius or Asclepius. Asclepius, all you have to do is know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Who was spoken about in the 1773 London Medical Society memoir?
Asclepius.
Asclepius.
Mm-hmm.
And Asclepius was known as the object.
There it is.
The object. So, again, your father's name, if you can succeed or follow your father without being cut off from your father, then you're in an inheritable position. Mm-hmm. But when they cut you off from the father, you need to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
You need some outside third person to come in and put you back together again. You cannot succeed your father if you've been cut off from the father.
Correct.
You don't even have access to your father's name. When they cut the cord, you become an orphan. Mm-hmm. When they cut the cord, you become a bastard. When they cut the cord, you become a pauper, a vagabond, and a fugitive from justice. You're cut off as a heathen. You're cut off as an indigenous person. You're cut off from your inheritance. Mm-hmm. Then all you have to do is go to, again, Lanham Act, and you'll realize again you're right back to the same thing, mm-hmm. where your origin, i.e. fertilization, reconnects you with the Father. I and the Father are one, and now you have access to your Father's name. By having access to your Father's name, you actually have a legitimacy to the trade name of the Father through succession. Yeah. Directly. You don't need to go through what? Administrative process to get it back.
Right.
You don't need to administrate. You don't need a minister. You don't need the ecclesia to act as a reconnection or a revival or a resurrection. You're already whole.
Yeah.
That's why the legal name is such a problem for people, because they think that this name is illegal to use. No, it's not. It's only illegal when it's not legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
When it's legitimate, again, through the Lanham Act, it actually says, the Lanham Act of 1946, which has been amended several times since its enactment, it says it's part of the Trademark Counterfeiting Act of 1984. But mainly it just says this: false designations of origin, false descriptions, and dilution forbidden. False designation of origin. Did you originate at fertilization, or are you using some other origin for some other thing?
Mm-hmm.
A false designation of origin. My origin's fertilization. If I claim my origin is implantation, that's not true.
That's true.
False description.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious that I'm not both me and my mom.
Right.
And finally, dilution forbidden. If my 46 chromosomes equals my entirety, but you add another 46 chromosomes to have you not diluted my 46?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
A dilution forbidden.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you understand what's happening to you by claiming anything other than fertilization.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I think I had one more thing on here. I know this is a lot, but it's so cool.
Well, and I want you to we keep dancing around Just Turkey too. And
that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to Just Turkey at Wikipedia, because this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big deal only if you know what the placenta is. Mm-hmm. Only if you know and understand tertium quid, tertium, terti, same root.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna just go to this because we can use just Wikipedia for it to make sense. Just Turkey, third party rights. Well, there it is right there.
Tertium quid.
Tertium quid. If the placenta is not viewed as a composition of matter that has been invented or patented, third party rights. Does a third party exist when you have defined your biology all the way to fertilization?
It can't.
It can't. Not just logically, but in reality it cannot exist.
Correct.
Okay, so it says, is the legal classification for an argument made by a third party as opposed to the legal title holder, which attempts to justify entitlement to possessory rights based on the showing of legal title in another person. Possessory rights. Now here we go. If Rome has a patented third party through a composition of matter, and that composition of matter is the fetal-maternal organ known as placenta, and that placenta becomes a third person that is neither mom nor baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's a third party. That third party has my biology, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it has mom's biology, doesn't it?
Yes.
It doesn't have 23 chromosomes. It has all 46 chromosomes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Of both of us.
Mm-hmm.
It says the just turdy is an attempt to justify entitlement to possessory rights. If a third party makes a claim and you cannot rebut it, if this particular third party, in other words, the birth certificated person and the owner of that patented material, if the owner of that patented material makes a claim and you come forward for whatever reason and you have the same biology as that third party, third person, but you don't even know this is going on, does that third party have possessory rights over you?
Yes.
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 If they can prove in their patented third person, that your biology is party to their claim, you become the subservient party.
Yes.
You are now going to serve that third person. You're going to do as you're told.
Mm-hmm.
You are possessed. Mm-hmm. You are possessed by that third party. And here's the problem with that. You're possessed by your own claim.
Mm-hmm.
You've given all your rights over to that owner, the owner of the invention, the owner of that patent. You've given yourself over by your own claim to the birthday.
Yes.
When you claim the birthday, you are now participating in the third party willfully.
Yes.
That's a meeting of the minds.
Yes.
And now they have a contract with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've admitted that birthday is acceptable to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to have, and you are, at that point, you are granted an office or an official capacity
mm-hmm. to
work through that, but it's only through the franchise of rec or the 14th Amendment citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm getting at, go ahead.
Well, and not only that, but you have to carry around a license to prove that you've agreed to that too. Which evidences it? The birthday, and evidences your willful participation. And by the way, again, do you need permission to do anything with your own biology? No. There's a maxim that says one does not or cannot have a servitude over his own property. Yeah. His own property. His own property. But can you have a servitude over the property of another? No. Yes. Well, you can, yes. Absolutely. No, the question is, first of all, you can't have a servitude over your own property. Yes, that's true. Which also means you can have a servitude over the property of another. Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm. Is the placenta, if viewed as a third person, not you? Is it possible for you to have a servitude over that third party? Yeah. It's not you. It has 96 or 92 chromosomes. Yeah. That ain't you. Mm-mm. That third person, third party, tertium quid placenta is a just terti. It's a third person that is in a patentable position through 35 USC 101, inventions patentable. They now have a patent on a tertium quid 92 chromosome monstrosity. Yes. But in that patent is your biology. Yes. As part of the patented product. Uh-huh. Just like when GMO corn mixes in with non-GMO corn. Mm-hmm. When Monsanto goes into some other farmer's field and tests the field of that farmer and finds their GMO product in the farmer's field, they lay claim to all of that farmer's corn. Yes. When the courts find that your biology and the third party's biology, the GMO third party, when they find that GMO third party has your biology, guess what happens to you? It lays claim over all of my biology. They get to claim all of you because you're part of their patent. Mm-hmm. You are now possessed by the patent holder. Yes. But you're only possessed by the patent holder because you're allowing the third person to exist. Correct. The moment the third person is negated by the truth of the matter, which is fertilization, the last breath, and the fact that you know that the placenta is not you. The placenta is not your mom. The placenta is not your property. Correct. When you know that, you cannot be possessed. Mm-hmm. People have no idea that it's all about the biology. Now, here's what it says
Just Turdy goes on to say, by the way, it does say, which attempts to justify entitlement to possessory rights based on the showing of legal title in another person. So when the patent holder of that third-party, third-person invention, the composition of matter, when they show legal title to that person, that is joinder to you.
Mm-hmm.
And now they possess you by joinder, and you got to jump, and when their music begins, you have to start dancing, and that's the piper, and that's where we're at. We find ourselves. Mm-hmm. But it says, by showing legitimate title in another person, just Turdy arguments imply that the present possessor's interest is illegitimate or that the present possessor is a thief. Mm-hmm. Present. They're saying that you, in the present,
are the thief,
are illegitimate, or you are a thief.
Wow.
You become the criminal because you don't know your godly origin.
Mm-hmm.
Your godly origin is fertilization. By allowing implantation and its subsequent matter, the composition of matter known as placenta, to exist separate from you or to be abandoned by you, that third-party placental composition of matter gets patented.
Yep.
And now they're going to haul your ass in as surety or guarantor through a warranty deed known as birth certificate.
Yes.
The warrant is based upon the third party's claim.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to go in there and perform for them.
Yep. All because you accept a birthday.
All because you believe in a birthday.
Because you believe in a birthday.
Right. It goes on to say, under United States law, just Turdy arguments are generally insufficient to support actions for replevin because they fail to show that possession is more legitimate in the third party than in the present possessor. However, a bailee or other legal agent of the owner may successfully assert the argument. Look at that. If I accept agency as the bailee for the placenta, how do I do that? Well, look at this is a little technical, so follow me. Baby, umbilical, and extraembryonic material is all one unit.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
A completed delivery is the fetus and its membranes.
Correct.
If a fetus and its membranes come out as one unit, the word fetus becomes baby.
Mm-hmm.
And the other membranes, the umbilical and the extraembryonic material, are just the membranes. So a true delivery includes all of the baby and all of the baby's membranes as one unit.
Mm-hmm.
So when they cut the cord and baby's out here and the rest of baby's in there, inside the womb, still in the waters of mother, that's an incomplete delivery, also known as an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do with that aborted material? It gives rise to a portfolio, a piece of paper known as a birth certificate. When they deliver the birth certificate to you, which represents the left behind material, the birth certificate material is the image of that left behind biology, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When they give you the birth certificate, which represents the cutoff material, have they not completed the delivery?
Yes. Fuck yes.
So now there's a biological baby, and then there's, which is incomplete, but now with the representative piece of paper known as birth certificate, which also includes mom's biology, but by giving you the certificate, did they not complete the delivery of you?
Yes, they completed the delivery and also left open controversy.
But yeah, they delivered it with a piece of controversy attached to it, known as mom's biology.
Yeah.
And then you believe that the birth certificated character, first, middle, last, is your name. Mm-hmm. So you go the rest of your life attached to only the aborted material, the decedent estate, and you use that decedent estate in commerce, because commerce, the commercial realm, is dead, but you use that material forever as your own, which is a just 30.
So
now the patent holder of that paper, of that character, can argue and bring you into court. All they need to do is issue a speeding ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up in court. The speeding ticket is nothing more than what? An invitation. But once you get into court, it's a bait and switch, and now they have you on all this other stuff, and they get to tap into your inheritance, your trust account.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it because they have possessory rights over the composition of matter, the third party, the tertium quid, just 30 character.
And that's been patented. It's
that is that, and they're the patent holder, but you'll never find out who is the patent holder to that, because it's probably the Roman Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're claiming the human creature, which is the afterbirth itself. Nobody's ever disputed Unum Sanctum. And again, the living, breathing, spiritual man is to be judged by no man, but because there's a patent that has the living, breathing, spiritual man's biology evidenced, then the spiritual man also gets pulled in on the patent holder's claim.
Mm-hmm. So,
even though he's not being judged, remember that the placenta is not you.
right.
So there's another bad thing about the placenta, is that if it's not you, can you witness against it?
Yes.
Yes, because it's not you. You can't be a witness against yourself, but you definitely can be a witness against it.
Mm-hmm. So it says, however, a bailee or other legal agent. So if I'm the owner, let's see if the legal agent is the middleman, and they're claiming possessory right of
No, don't make it easy here.
Okay.
If I give you a piece of paper that evidences that third party,
Mm-hmm.
I did, didn't I? Didn't I give you a birth certificate?
Yeah, you did.
So are you not the bailee?
Yes.
And you also have agency to act upon it.
Yes. Okay.
So you're the one that's holding that issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one acting as the bailee, and you have agency to act upon it. And you have a document, the patented document, to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that material you?
No. Yes,
No, it's you and Mom.
Right.
It becomes the tertium quid. My point is that you're acting as bailee
of something
and as agent
over something that's not really mine, even though I have.
That's also detrimental to you.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely.
The very thing, you're acting as the bailee, and then you deliver that material to the court. So are you not acting as a witness against yourself?
Yeah.
But not really, because the material that you're holding the evidence to, which is the paper, the birth certificate, that is not you. That's a 92 chromosome monstrosity. So you're not really being a witness against yourself, but by bringing in that paper, by evidencing or by being the bailee for that paper and bringing forward that birth certificated character, you end up as the trustee, you end up as the surety, you're the one that's actually becoming a witness against your own existence.
Mm-hmm.
Indirectly.
Yeah.
Put it this way, it's easier to look at. You become collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
Because the placenta, mom is collateral to baby is collateral to mom. In other words, they're connected side by side. And so if there's a claim against one, there's a claim against the other. And the point is that you're the bailee holding that birth certificated character. Hell, you even claim to be the birth certificated character, but all you are is the bailee, and you're acting through agency for that. And now guess what? They're allowing the agent to make the claim.
Yep.
So you're actually both Judas and Jesus. Yep. You're the one that is pointing the finger, and you're also the one sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
You're both.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty or not guilty, there's no innocent.
Mm-hmm.
The only position of innocence is WHOLE.
Mm-hmm.
You're only innocent from fertilization of the last breath. If you allow the cut, there's only two positions: guilty or not guilty.
And my
just like War and Peace.
And that certificate that I happen to hold right now for the legal name Linda Marie Hildred, evidence it right on the back that it's a third party, because it has both the footprints of what was once my baby prints and my mother's prints on it. It's telling me right there that it's not all mine.
That's the best evidence you can ever have.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence of both mother and child on one document, giving rise to one name,
mm-hmm.
one
and
title,
with an international date on it too.
With an international date, that right there, having both of your prints on one document, is the tertium quid.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, everybody believes that first, middle, last is their claim, when in fact it is not. It is a patented composition of matter. Your biology and mom's biology as one thing, one new thing, one tertium quid. And now that patent holder, whoever patented that third thing, it makes all their money through you. This is the ultimate money laundering system of all time.
It is. It just is
the ultimate.
Amazing. It's just, it's actually so ingenious, really.
Yep. All of the money gets laundered through you. Mm-hmm. By you making the claim upon that thing, all the money earned through there, all the bills paid, all the punishments doled out goes to you or against you.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the patent, they just reap all the benefits. They reap all the money. They reap everything, but it's the owner of the patent, which is not you.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
Mm-hmm. And the only way out is to remove my property by knowing that my beginning is fertilization to this moment, the breath I'm taking right now.
Yeah, the only way to end it is to never stop stating the truth
mm-hmm.
of the matter. The only way you're whole is from the very beginning, called fertilization, and never ever accepting that the cut as a cut. So, I'm still using that biology. So mm-hmm. even though they physically cut it, that's another thing. There are guys out there that are saying that truth and fact are different. I'm going to say this. The truth doesn't give a shit about facts.
Mm-hmm.
The cutting of the umbilical cord is a fact. The record of the cut, the record of the separation is a fact. But the truth of my life is fertilization of last breath. So even though they can pile fact upon fact upon fact upon fact, I don't give a shit about the facts, because the truth overrides all of those contrived facts.
Yeah.
I'm so angry about some of these people out there saying that truth is about belief. No, truth is truth. It requires no belief. Facts can be contrived. They can be manufactured. Cutting the umbilical cord is a fact, but it isn't your true origin.
No, it's manipulated a whole lot. So, say just a little bit, make the connection between, because you brought up the other day the just turdy and in specie, and I'm still wobbling there, that my biology in the tertium quid is my species that was cut off from me. Am I thinking correctly?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's just go and finish just turdy wiki real quick.
Okay.
Goes, next line says, the principle is sometimes used to allow one person to enforce or test the constitutional rights of another, which usually can't be done due to lack of standing. Lack of standing.
If I'm not breathing, I'm not standing.
Right. If I'm not living, I have no standing.
Mm-hmm.
A dead body doesn't have standing in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
A ghost has no standing.
Yes.
So spirit or cadaver, neither has standing.
Correct.
So it goes on to say this is only possible for fundamental rights. Fundamental.
Yes.
We're talking about all the way back to the origin, fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
the beginning, the true beginning, not manufactured, not contrived, fundamental rights where there is a close connection between the person whose rights are violated and the person wishing to enforce them, and the constitutional right being enforced is a fundamental right. Look at a close connection between the person whose rights are violated. Ready?
That's the cut.
If the placenta is looked at as a separate third person, and the rights of that born alive person is being violated, my biology and it match.
Mm-hmm.
I have a definite connection between that third party, right?
Yes.
But it says close connection between the person whose rights are violated and the person wishing to enforce them. So if I can't prove my existence because all of my rights are tied up in this third person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any way to enforce my rights.
No.
If all of my rights are tied up in this fundamental just tertium quid, third party, third person, I don't have any on my own.
No.
So the only way I can get all of my rights is to tie myself or to reconnect myself to the one that does have the fundamental rights, also known as just cogents. And who's the one that has the fundamental rights?
The fundamental rights is the living.
No. The living isn't even recognized. There is no name to the living.
Okay.
The living has no rights because the living doesn't exist on paper. So where are all the rights located? They're located in the third party that has your biology.
Yes.
They're located there, but they're tied also to mother.
Right. So by me saying I know my beginning is fertilization, the third party no longer exists. So then where are the rights?
If the third party doesn't exist as a third party, but the record exists that includes your biology, guess who gets the record?
The patent holder.
You do.
If I know who I am from fertilization.
Then who owns all the rights to that contrived character?
I do.
You do. Finally, you do. And what happens when you get all the rights to that character, and that character is tied to the bank account of mother?
Then whatever is connected in specie to me is mine.
You are the specie.
I am the specie. I have the right to the bank account then.
You have a right to the account that is attached to mother internationally.
Yeah.
And the patent holder, which they need, ultimately you're the owner.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep claiming the birthday is not you. Mm-mm. It's not for you.
Mm-mm.
So that's an insane position. That's insanity. That's mental illness.
Yes.
That's a mental health problem. So you're incapacitated because, if anything, does that character ever go beyond year one?
No, can't.
No, that's infancy. Mm-hmm. So infancy is also incapacitated. Mm-hmm. This looks like an impossibility, but the moment you evidence knowledge going all the way back to your godly origin. Now the biology becomes the end species.
Okay.
Now only you, by the way, are connected to that third party. You're the only one with a legitimate claim, especially if your mom's no longer living.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
So the only one with a legitimate claim upon that would be somebody directly connected to it. So there's only two of those people that exist, mom and baby.
Uh-huh.
The fact that this patented situation exists it only exists to create controversy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the people that are holding the patent holder, the holder of the patent, they're holding it in abeyance until the living man evidences life, which nobody does.
Mm-hmm.
So that patent gets administrative process. The patent does.
Mm-hmm.
The administrator, who usually administrates that patent?
The lawyers?
Right. No, there are no lawyers. Attorneys.
The attorneys. Mm-hmm.
The lawyers don't exist anymore. The lawyers used to work in law. Attorneys don't work in law.
Right.
They work at law.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the Bar Association created this patented character specifically so that they have work. Without this third party, third person tertium quid, the bar doesn't have any job. They don't have anything to work with.
Yeah.
They only work with the color of law, the colorable person. They don't work with the living. All they do is put Humpty Dumpty back together again for a brief period until he breaks again.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting at is that the you're looking for something. You're looking for the species connection.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the only two potential true owners of that that placenta?
Mom and me.
And if you didn't exist, would the placenta exist?
No.
Right. If you didn't exist, the placenta wouldn't exist. So again, the creation of the placenta was specific to your origin, your creation.
Yes.
Mom doesn't make placentas on her own. She requires that implantation.
Yes.
But that's not relevant. The only thing I ever concern myself with is, where is my property line?
Mm-hmm.
Where is my property line?
The extra embryonic and the...
My property is baby, umbilical, and extra embryonic.
Yes.
And originally it had the pellucid membrane around the outside of the zygote.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to really think about this. You know what adverse possession is.
Yes.
Think about the placenta. No, I'm picturing my yard. I'm looking at my yard right now. And the neighbors, we have a fence all the way around our yard.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that my fence is 3 feet inside my property line all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And the people around or outside my fence, maintain those 3 feet. They cut the grass, they plant flowers. So everything outside my fence, even though 3 feet of it is my property, is maintained by others.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, if I want to extend the fence, somebody's going to say, you can't do that because we've been maintaining it for the last 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
So that property became ours.
Mm-hmm.
That's called adverse possession.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the placenta. A piece of you is attached to mother.
Mm-hmm.
And those claiming for or working for the mother is Rome and or the Bar Association.
Mm-hmm.
You've never maintained the placenta.
Correct.
So they're going to claim through adverse possession the material that is attached to mom's yard.
Mm-hmm.
So now, again, your biology has been adversely possessed by the owner of the patent.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if all of that is negated from the beginning? Mm-hmm. What if that patent could never have existed if the truth was in play?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And if the violence hadn't happened of the cut, if that hadn't happened, then none of that could exist.
Right, because ex injuria.
Yeah.
Ex injuria says that a violent act cannot give rise to a rule or a law or a statute or a code. So the violent act of the cutting itself, the violence itself negates that which was created through the violence, the cut. So ex injuria right off the bat stops the cut material from existing separately from you.
Which stops anything patentable, which stops any claim.
Right off the bat.
So where I get stuck is, okay, then you say, but there does exist, in fact, an account that, and this is where people get stuck. And if I want to claim that money, then I'm once again in the controversy, because that's quid pro quo, trading one thing for another, which says there's something to be traded.
No, it's before that, Linda.
Okay.
If you're trying to claim an account that doesn't exist, then by even acknowledging the account, you're saying that the account does exist.
Right.
If the account exists, it's because of the cut.
Yes.
So by even acknowledging a separate account, are you not allowing the cut to exist?
Yes. Yes.
If you go after the account, which is it only exists because of the cut, if you're trying to claim monies from that account, then the patent exists and is in the hands of the patent holder.
Right.
Again, no cut, no separate account. So if you allow the account to exist or trying to claim monies of that account, then you're going right back to the cut. You're allowing the cut to happen.
So, but if the cut doesn't exist, then in species doesn't exist either, does it?
Are you not the species known as man?
Yes.
Where does the species known as man begin?
Fertilization.
Right. So the origin of the species is the zygote itself, the product of fertilization.
Yes.
So your species began at fertilization.
Yes.
Is the birth certificated person or the representation, the paper representation, a species? No. It's a represented. It represents the species.
It's an image.
It's an image. So it's not the species. The species is the actual biology.
Yeah. Okay.
The paper's not the species. The currency's not the species. The note is not the species. No paper can represent, or it can, but it is not the species. If you ask or demand back the species, the biology, you're getting back your piece of the placenta.
Yeah.
When you demand back species, the placenta doesn't exist. When the placenta doesn't exist, the patentable property doesn't exist. When the property doesn't exist, 1 U.S. C8, the individual, the member, doesn't exist. 14th Amendment citizenship doesn't exist. Nothing exists when you are whole.
Yeah.
None of the fictions exist. That's why all I ever speak about is fertilization, the last breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so
because
all of
the
your
placenta
letters,
is not.
Well, so all of your letters are saying that. They're saying just 30. I mean, they're saying there is only you from fertilization to last breath. That's your species. That's your
Right.
That's your vehicle that you are moving around on the.
It's one biology.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you turn around, they're always saying another person, someone else, not you.
Yeah.
That's why when I hear people say, I think the words they would use would be not for my benefit, but or in place of me. What do they usually use? What are the words they use? I joke about being beside myself, but there it is, my behalf.
On my behalf, yeah.
I don't have a half.
No.
There is no other. There's only me, and I've been using the same biology from fertilization to this moment, so I have no half. There is no B half.
Yeah.
So somebody cannot act on my behalf because my behalf doesn't exist.
Right. And if you want, you're either B to not be would be behalf.
Right, it doesn't make any sense. B half?
Mm-hmm.
Explain that to me. You can't. Anyway, so Just 30 has a hypothetical example. Mm-hmm. It says, Art brings an action for Replevin against Bert. Okay, so we're going to end up just looking at Replevin anyway. Mm-hmm. Because that's where in specie comes in, but let's get through this first. Art brings an action for Replevin against Bert, seeking to recover a bicycle. Well, look at just that example. Art, which is fiction, mm-hmm. Art brings an action for Replevin against Bert, seeking to recover a bicycle. Not a cycle, a bicycle, which implies two wheels.
Yes.
Two. So Art is trying to recover something that exists as two. Mm-hmm. The fiction is the patent holder is going after the bicycle.
Right.
The two, the tertium quid.
The tertium quid, yep.
So they're talking about a bicycle in a Just 30 claim.
Yeah.
How appropriate. It goes on to say Art, or in support for the action, Art presents evidence that Kathy is in fact the true owner of the bicycle in question, not Bert. A U.S. court would reject Art's Just 30 argument for Replevin because he has failed to show that he has a more legitimate interest in the bike than Bert. Look at how weird that is. Art presents evidence that Kathy is in fact the true owner. Think about it this way. Baby is Bert, mm-hmm. and Kathy is Mom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Art brings an action for Replevin against Bert, seeking to recover a bicycle, the placenta. Mm-hmm. A bicycle. Two things, two cycles. Mm-hmm. So Art is actually acting like he is the patent holder. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. He has the patent to the bicycle, the placenta.
Yeah.
And he's acting on behalf, in a weird sort of way, for Kathy, the mom. Mm-hmm. Mom. So it says, Art presents evidence that Kathy is, in fact, the true owner of the bicycle in question, not Bert. So he brings an action against Bert, mm-hmm. Baby, or the man, but he's bringing an action saying that the baby's not the owner, Kathy is. Mom's the owner. Mm-hmm. So the church is bringing an action on the side of Mom against Baby. Mm-hmm. Then it goes on to say a U.S. court would reject Art's Just 30 argument for Replevin because he has failed to show that he has a more legitimate interest in the bike than Bert. So even though the patent holder is bringing a cause of action and using Kathy or Mom, the other party to the patent, saying that, no, the other party's the owner, not Bert, not Baby. So they're saying that Mom owns the placenta, not Baby. But a United States court rejects Just 30 because the United States doesn't see the patent holder's legitimate interest. Either way.
Right.
The United States, now be careful because the United States is very clear in its position. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks the United States is the enemy. Mm-mm. But the United States is saying, no, you, the patent holder, don't actually have legitimacy over this. Kathy or Bert might have it, but you don't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's what's weird about it. I'm going to go to Zygo real quick in Wikipedia because this is where the United States, again, I'm going down to humans, paragraph 2, last paragraph. It says, in the U.S., I'm going to presume U.S. means United States, the National Institutes of Health has determined that the traditional classification of pre-implantation embryo is still correct. Mm-hmm. Pre-implantation embryo. Is it a bicycle?
No.
No. Mm-mm. It doesn't have two elements yet, does it? Mm-mm. The zygote is a brand new singular 46 chromosome individual entity. Mm-hmm. It's not a bi anything yet. It's not a bicycle yet. It's singular.
Yes.
When it plants into the wall of the uterus, now it's combined with mother's biology. It's a combination of matter. But until it actually implants into the wall of the uterus, it's not by anything. It's not two of anything. So the United States courts, the National Institutes of Health has says that the traditional classification of pre-implant embryo is correct. So the United States shot down, going back to just 30, the United States says, no, we're not going to let that patent stand because you, the patent holder, don't have any more rights to that placenta just because you have the patent. Yeah, the bicycle, because the bicycle really belongs to both Bert and Kathy, but not to the patent holder.
Right.
The United States is not the bad guy. The federal small f government is aligning with man's covenant with God.
Yes.
So the United States, if you will prove your knowledge of fertilization over conception. By the way, they also say that the birth certificated person is an enemy of the state.
Yes.
Enemy of the state. Why? Because your allegiance now, if you go towards the birth certificated person, your allegiance goes to Rome. And the United States is trying to protect itself from Rome.
And you're bringing contraband into... You're
trying
to bring contraband into the United States.
You're trying to bring something that does not exist naturally into a place that only recognizes the laws of nature and nature's God.
Yeah, right. That's better said, of course.
Well, I mean, the United States, the Declaration of Independence is actually saying, listen, nature we align with. But this contrived conception, this mother and child religious concept, that's contraband. We're not allowing it into the United States.
It's not only contraband, it creates endless controversy, too.
If I am in the United States as a living being, a godly man in the United States, and there's a monkey on my back, I'm going to call it a parasite. That parasite, through its ability as a patented element, is able to undermine my own activities. If all of my productivity goes into its character, into its account, it's siphoned off from me, it's undermining me, then it's also undermining the United States.
Yes.
So it's not allowed in the United States. Sadly, everybody have bought into the birth certificate. Sadly, everybody is acting in a public service or public servitude for Rome.
Yeah.
Through that third person invention, or that composition of matter, the placental birth certificated person. I think we should now. Let me finish with this real quick. So the U.S. rejects art. By the way, remember years ago I found the definition of child in a Catholic dictionary, and the definition of child in a Catholic dictionary that I found way back when was Christian art.
Yeah.
Christian art was the definition of child. So we're looking at art, and the combination of mother and child, Madonna and child, Mary and Jesus, that's the art. Okay. And that's also the character born to the Gregorian calendar that Pope Gregory laid claim to or created in 1582. So again, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, evidencing the just 30 tertium quid placenta, that character is born to a timeline or a intellectual property of Rome, the Gregorian calendar. It exists only in that calendar.
Right.
Which is also the global commerce calendar. So that character is 100% commerce, commercial.
Yes.
Replevin, it says, and this is what's typically used with the just 30 situation. Replevin says, and I'm at Wikipedia, it says Replevin, or claim and delivery. Replevin says, or claim and delivery, sometimes called revendication, is a legal remedy which enables a person to recover personal property taken wrongfully or unlawfully and to obtain compensation for resulting losses. So again, when they cut and remove or amputate my extra embryonic material, which includes the placenta, that really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So Replevin says a claim and delivery. Did they deliver all of me when they cut the cord?
No.
No, but they created a fictitious or a reduction onto XY axis paper, the flat earth, so to speak. The plan or plane, plane, T, plane T. Think about that. A plane plus a T. It looks like a cross, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a plane, a surface with a T in it, that looks like a cross that somebody's going to be hung on.
Yep.
Planet,
Mm-hmm.
planet, plane T. Replevin goes on to say, etymology of Replevin is this. The word Replevin is of Anglo-Norman origin and is the noun form of the verb replevi. This comes from Old French replever, derived from plever, to pledge.
Oh, man.
Which is derived from Latin replegare, to redeem a thing taken by another. So a replevin is the redemption of a thing taken by another. Is the placenta a thing taken by somebody else?
Yes.
So a replevin would actually be in play, and it should be in play. You got to learn what a replevin is, but here we go. I'm just going to read replevin nature. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the answer to your question. You're asking about in specie.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that my biology is the species known as man.
Yes.
And the species, the origin of the species for everyone is the zygote.
Yes.
So in order for me to be known as a man, I have to originate as a man.
Yes.
Which is in specie.
Got it. Okay.
My biology is the species. If they have a record of my biology connected to mom's, they actually have my species on deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not whole.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not whole, there's only two positions. They have either a cadaver, a dead body, or the other is a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of which have rights.
Right.
So look at this. Nature. In the law of torts, John Fleming has written, from medieval times, there has also come down to us a summary process known as replevin, by which a man out of whose possession goods have been taken away may obtain their return until the right to the goods can be determined by a court of law. Again, goods, the unborn of animals,
mm-hmm.
the cut material.
Mm-hmm.
Did they not take away the goods, the cut material?
Yes.
Goes on to say, replevin arose out of the need of a turbulent society to discourage resort to self-help. And although for a long time primarily used in disputes about distress between landlord and tenant, it was gradually expanded to cover all cases of allegedly wrongful dispossession. Dispossession. Now look at this. But look what it said here. A turbulent society to discourage resort to self-help. What is self-help, realistically?
I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah, but I mean, if I find out that somebody has stolen my biology,
mm-hmm.
if somebody cut a piece of me off and took it away,
mm-hmm.
what's self-help? Self-help is me loading up a gun and finding the motherfucker that stole my shit.
Mm-hmm.
And one way or another, I'm getting it back.
Right.
That's self-help.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they created a system of arbitration where the church gets to lay claim to its human creature, but when the man wakes up, when the man comes around, as Johnny Cash would say, when the man comes around, he's going to want his stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
When he wakes up, he's going to want his stuff back. That's called revelation, by the way. Revelation is the revealing of the truth. When the truth is made known, that's revelation. Mm-hmm. That's when that world, that contrived fictional nonsense ends. That's where we're at right now. The fiction is ending.
And when you know the truth shall make you free.
John 8:32. Mm-hmm. But look, again, it goes on to say at nature for Replevin, if the plaintiff wanted return of his chattel in specie, Replevin was a more appropriate remedy than either trespass or trover, in which only damages could be recovered. Restoration of the property is, of course, only provisional pending determination of the title. Again, the title is for the third party. Mm-hmm. When you evidence fertilization to last breath, and the placenta only exists because you exist, who actually has a greater claim to that title?
I do.
You do. Mm-hmm. By the way, as the living being that requires all of your biology, from the beginning, from species, the origin of the species. By the way, didn't they really hammer the origin of the species? Didn't they try to get people to turn away from the origin of the species because of Darwin? Mm-hmm. Didn't they try to get people to believe that the origin of the species meant coming from monkeys?
They're doing it again.
They're doing it again.
Oh, shit.
So the origin of the species is a zygote. From the zygote to this moment as you and I speak is nothing but evolutionary process.
Right.
There's no monkey business involved at all.
Or monkey virus.
So what they're going to do is they're basically going to put evolution back on trial, which is nothing more than the evolutionary process from zygote to this point, and they're going to get a bunch of morons, a bunch of monkeys, to agree that it's that intelligent design is true and evolutionary process is not. Mm-hmm. Is there anything more intelligent than conception and getting all the people of the world to agree to the implantation, conception, and birthday? That's intelligence right there, getting all the monkeys to agree to be enslaved.
And to, and to make murder okay in an abortion.
Right. So they're getting everybody to agree to their own servitude.
Yeah, so that the medical society can continue to take the cut and take the property, and the government will stay out of it.
Right, and the United Nations, which is international, is the only place that such measures are taken into account, making you whole. Mm-hmm. Remember that it's at the United Nations level where they use those measures, those cut measures, to do what? To give you back your human rights. Mm-hmm. And the human rights begins at fertilization. Mm-hmm. Human rights is the in specie rights. Human rights are not privileges.
They're fundamental.
They're fundamental. Mm-hmm. And that's why fundamental Christianity is talking about the creation, God's creation. Mm-hmm. So you got people negating God or actually saying God is not true, which is nothing more than the act of creation. So they're arguing against their own existence.
Mm-hmm. It's so brilliant.
So does in species make sense now?
Yeah, I got it now. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Thank you for staying on. I know I kept you a long time. Oh, my goodness.
Well, one last thing. I'm going to go back to Just Turdy, and I'm going to go to a case law example real quick just to get to the one word that I need people to hear.
Okay.
It says, in Gissel versus State. Now, I'm at Just Turdy at Wiki. Mm-hmm. In Gissel versus State, Gissel unlawfully harvested wild rice growing on land jointly owned by the state of Idaho and the National Forest Service. Jointly owned. Mm-hmm. So think about that. I go and I make all my money through Curtis Richard Kallenbach, which is jointly owned by the pad holder.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm harvesting, my energy, my labor is going into this character. Everything I produce is ultimately claimed by more than just me.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a joint ownership to that composition of matter. So Gissel versus state, it says Gissel unlawfully harvested wild rice growing on land jointly owned by the state of Idaho and the National Forest Service. An Idaho court convicted Gissel of trespass, and Idaho officials seized and sold the rice at auction. Because Idaho had only 1/2 interest in the land, Gissel challenged the state's authority to seize, sell, and keep the profits from all the rice. The Idaho Supreme Court held that Gissel was entitled to half of the profits because Idaho did not effectively make just turdy argument on behalf of the federal small f government. The Gissels, though trespassers and without legal title, which title rests with the state forest, with the Forest Service, still by mere possession have greater rights superior to that of the state. My point is, federal, on behalf of the federal small f government. So the small f federal, man's covenant with God, is making a claim separate from the living.
Behalf.
The behalf. But what happens when your government is still upon your shoulders? Isaiah 9:6.
Then none of them have a claim on it.
There's no one other than you. There is no behalf. There's no one other than you. The covenant with God is still intact from fertilization to last breath.
Mm-hmm.
All present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. There is no opportunity for conflict.
Right.
As long as you know it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I prefer to stay away from all labels.
Mm-hmm.
All labels. I prefer to stay away from any claims whatsoever. Let the truth do everything.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is write it out and let it do its work. Mm-hmm. Because John 8:32 will always be the answer.
Yeah.
Always be the answer. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. That's knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowledge. Knowledge and faith are not the same thing. Faith implies a middleman or a go-between or a medium of exchange, whereas direct knowledge is I and the Father are one.
Yeah. And for convenience and consistency, you're still using the label with the initial period in it for...
And the initial period is identified. Again, I believe that when you look at Curtis R. period Kallenbach, the R period is the font. It's the font from which everything flows. The font is the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Your inheritance. We good?
Yep.
Ouch. It's a lot, but it's really, really good stuff. And you had like some really mega input on this one because I was forgetting stuff all over the place.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, they're going to really have to wade through this one because it's almost 4 hours.
Oh, you got to be kidding me!
No.
Holy crap! Okay.
Yep.
Got to go.
Bye.
Bye.